Hey guys, how are you all? Welcome to Let's Start Story on What If Neglected Naruto Got Harem with Clarisse and Bianca. So do 4 blue hearts. Comment, be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video, and please share with your friends and watch till end. Also check out Patreon for I have upload Naruto X Rias and Akano uncensored spicy version, link in description. The land of the elements was a whole another world from the one that we know. In fact, it is not even part of our world. And the gods know this well. This world is found in a parallel dimension. The Olympian gods know of this world because they visit it often. It was a vacation for them, where they don't have to worry about their domain and responsibility, as they have none of that here. Another reason is time flowed different from each world. 1 year there is 3 years here, or sometimes it switches. This world was different from the one they are used to and created. Whatever they do here or what they do to relax is different, but it was all the same to them. One goddess was simply enjoying a walk through the forest near the spot she entered from. Having just got here, figured she'd take in the beauty of the world before something happens. While this world was not like her own, the lands were home to ninja. The last time she was here she spent 3 years with a village of them and gotten to know one of them. To her surprise, he was also a half-blood, though he never left this world. He knew who his immortal parent was and even seen them a few times. In those 3 years she gotten to know this half-blood and had even fallen in love with him. She even bared a child for him to rise. She felt heartbroken leaving him here with just his father. If it was her world, she would at least see him more often. Have him go to Camp Half-Blood where he would train and she would claim him as hers. Sadly, this was not meant to be, as a terrible tragedy came that night. A monster attacked that village as she was giving childbirth to her son. Though she could do nothing then, she wished she could have. This monster, as the village called it, the nine-tailed fox, was a giant beast that could crush mountains and cause tsunamis with a single flick of its tails. She felt as if that thing could be a match for the typhon. After her child was born, she was still weak and tried as her lover came to her. He told her that the only way to save the village was to seal the monster away into their son. With his immortal blood in him, he will be able to hold the creature back forever and it would never be freed again. Tears gathered in her eyes as she was told the next day that doing this cost him his soul. She knew as he died in this world, he was sent to this world afterlife and not the underworld. Even if he did, she could do nothing about it. She was forced to leave her son soon after that, as she had to get back home before the gods send someone to get her and get punished for tiring to skip out of their duty. It happened to Ares and Apollo once. Once, making sure that her son was in good hands, gave him one last lullaby and kiss, then left. This was the first time she saw me back to this world, but she hopefully would be able to see her little boy. The sound of a waterfall caught her attention and figured that she could use a bit of cold water splashed to her face to calm her down before heading for the village hidden in the leaves. The waterfall came into view and the goddess looked on to see a strange scene. The waterfall was in between 2 giant statues that reminded her of some of their temples that she and the other god had back in the day. At their feet were 2 boys. Well, one didn't look like a boy. He had gray skin and had large leather wings shaped like hands. In his hands was what looked like black lighting. The sound of many birds could be heard all around the valley. On the other side has a blonde-haired boy, whisker-like marks on his face and wearing what looked like an orange jumpsuit. It looked like something only Apollo would love. There was an aura around him that was shaped like an animal. When she saw the thick aura tail, she realized it was a fox. In his hands was, she closed her eye and shook her head. She has to be seeing things, she just had to. In the boy hands was an orb of energy that was spinning in every direction at once. It was called the Rasengan. It was a move her lover made, inspired by his immortal father. Then the 2 charged at each other. The monster flying while the other one jumped and glided at him. Their arms held back ready to use their attacks, each shouting at the other. Sasuke, Naruto. The goddess's heart skipped a beat. Could that be her son? While in face was changed slightly by the aura. But it looked a lot like her lover's face. Her son groaned so much. They met in midair and the attacks clashed with each other. The energy mixing causing it to flare up, blinding even the goddess. When it cleared, she froze. Only one of the boys was still standing and it was not her son. The monster changed back into a dark-haired boy, said something to her son and left. She didn't hear what he said, her whole attention was on her son. She wanted nothing more than to turn that boy into something nasty and unpleasant. The only stopping her was her injured son. Removing some ambrosia and a bottle of nectar, she cut a square and feed it to him. After she got him to eat it, she had him swallow some of the nectar. She tried not to give him too much for fear it would kill him. Slowly the wound in his chest started to heal before her eyes. She checked again and found him still alive and breathing fine. As it started to rain softly, the goddess made her descension. She was bringing him back with her right now. She gathered him up as a ninja and a pug enter the valley. The dog sniffed around but turns to the ninja who didn't take his eye off of the goddess. The rain is washing away the scent, I can't track anything anymore. The ninja still looked at the goddess, know what she really was. He bowed and said, my lady. The goddess knew who this one he was trained by her lover and helped protect the village. Kakashi. I'm taking my son where he belongs. Tell you village, if her ever come back it will be his descension. If it was up to me he would never come back. And in a blind light, which caused Kakashi and his dog to look away. Vanished with her son. Scene change. A day after Naruto was taken from his world, the blonde was now in a bed. From the sounds outside the window, it seemed that it was very noisy out there. Slowly waking up, Naruto bolted up and looked around. This place was not his apartment in the village hidden in the leaves, nor was it a hospital room. Looking around him, he noticed a scroll addressed to him. Dear Naruto, I am sorry I won't be there when up awaken. First I am your mother. I'm sorry I could not be there for you growing up. There are law my family has that foe. RCES any children of theirs to be raised by someone we trust or love. I know it must be strange to you but I hope you understand. I fully intend to have you brought up by your father but that cursed fox sealed in you stopped that. His death hurt me and not being about to be with you even more. Please believe me I would want nothing more than to raise you but the laws are stopping me. You are now in another world far from your own. This is my world and I brought you here after I found you at the valley. Don't worry though, we will meet in time. When the time comes, I will be happy to see you. Now, since you are still young, you have to go to school in this world and I have enrolled you in Yancy Academy. In the seal at the bottom of the scroll, you will find all that you need in this world and that includes money. Also, there are some special jutsu from your father that only you can learn since you are his son. Though I saw you already know one of them. Oh, just for a reference for the future, a book on Greek mythology. You will need that info, trust me. Be careful my son, your mother. Naruto sighed as he looked out the window after reading the scroll. He had a lot to do in this new and strange world. Smirking, he created a shadow clone and got to work sorting out the stuff in the scroll. As he did he could not help but think, is this world ready for me? It has been a few months since Naruto arrived in this new land. Learning a new language had been surprisingly easy. Though he did find out that he was dyslexic in this world also but he knew how to deal with it. That was not all bad, for you see, he had met a boy with the same problem. His name was Percy Jackson. The two got along very well. They were both impulsive and that hated being in school. Naruto's reason was Bako, say of his experience in the academy back home, while Percy's reason was that weird thing happened to him and always got then blame. Now, Naruto being himself did not really give a second thought about that. That and the fact that he told Percy about his ninja abilities only strengthened their friendship. Percy wished that he could make shadow clones to do his own homework and often begged Naruto to use them to help him out in school or when they were handing out. Then through that friendship came another. Through Percy, he had met Grover Underwood. The boy was a cripple because he was always seen with crutches. He was also a bit of a hippie in his opinion because of the fact that he barely ever ate meat and by the way he dressed. Naruto thought his outfit back home was way better, and showing the guy it caused Grover to just laugh. Though he was pranked afterwards. All in all, Grover was a very nice guy. He usually looked out for Percy and himself the best he could, of course being crippled made him a bit weak. Now, however, our trio was on a bus to the Metropolitan Museum of Art. They were taking a trip to learn about Greek mythology, not that Naruto needed it since he knew a lot already. Sitting in his seat, Naruto saw what Percy was wearing for today. With his dark hair, he wore an orange and red shirt, blue jeans, and some black shoes. Grover, who was sitting right next to Percy, had his usual crutches. A tie-dye shirt and some oversized pants on that hid his shoes. Naruto was still considered the oddball of the group. He wore a pair of black sneakers, some ripped jeans, and a black shirt on that had a picture of blue flames coming from a bluish-silver dragon jaws. His train of thought was broken because Nancy Bobofit was throwing wads of her peanut butter and jelly at Grover, who was acting like nothing was happening to him for their sake. Percy was already on probation because of the odd stuff that happened to him. Some of it was him helping Naruto. Naruto, however, was not and he could do anything within reason. He smirked in anticipation. I am going to kill her. Naruto heard Percy mumble. It is okay. I like peanut butter. Grover commented as he had to dodge a piece of Nancy's lunch. That's it. Percy growled out as he started to get up but Grover kept him down. That is when Percy saw the look in Naruto's eyes and smirked. You're already on probation, Grover reminded Percy. You know who'll get blamed if anything happens. Percy smirked and said, only if I am the one doing it. That statement made Grover suddenly look at Naruto and he was out to warn his other friend in the seat next to them, but he never got the chance to because at that moment, Nancy threw another piece of her lunch at Grover. Naruto, who had been fiddling with a paper shuriken, immediately threw the paper projectile at the wad and it caught the piece of sandwich and kept on traveling to the window where it struck through a bit. Hey Nancy Drew, Naruto started with an annoyed smirk as he made fun of the girl's name. Please stop that. Why the hell you care Uzumaki? Who are you to me I can mess with? The redhead questioned. Because they are my friends and better people than you are. Naruto said with a glare that sent chills down the girl's spine. Now please stop or you will be my next target. Nancy paled at this. She knew what happened to those he targets. The last girl ended up tied upside down to the flagpole in her underwear, so she nodded her head. Good girl, Naruto said, making a lot of the students around them laugh, included Percy and Grover. Scene change. Mr. Brunner led the museum tour. He rode up front in his wheelchair, leading the group through the big galley, past marble statues, and glass cases full of really old black and orange pottery. Naruto could not help but chuckle at the choice of colors. Naruto looked at Percy and saw the boy was blown away by the fact that this old stuff was in good condition. Dude, your mouth is hanging open. Percy's face went red as he closed his mouth. Naruto just laughed at his friend's expression. Sorry, it is just that this stuff is really old. Hey, well, when you have fanatics looking for this stuff, they find it and try and bring it back to the condition it was once in. Naruto said. Percy looked at Naruto oddly before shaking his head. I keep forgetting that you are one of those fanatics. I mean you read about all that Greek mythology all the time. There is some pretty interesting stuff. Naruto shrugged as they walked with the group to where Mr. Brunner had stopped. Besides, Mr. Brunner is under the assumption that we should both know about it all. Percy just rolled his eyes. Easy for you to say, you're interested in it. I mean that class, biology class and PE is what you excel in. The others are miles behind, like me. Naruto replied with a shrug. Percy usually tried his best but thanks to his dyslexia and ADHD, he had a hard concentrating on much of anything at school. So the guy just didn't care much for them. Turning their attention to Mr. Brunner, they went quiet, listened to the guy tell them about the ancient gods and other stuff like that. He had gathered them around a 13-foot tall column with a big sphinx on the top, and the man started telling us how it was a grave marker, a steal, for a girl about our age. He told us about the carvings on the sides. Naruto noticed that Percy was actually paying attention, but the idiots around them would not stop talking for 1 second and Percy told them to shut up. For some odd reason Ms. Dodds, the annoying substitute math teacher, would give the both of them the evil eye. It was like she expected them to do something bad. That annoyed Naruto even further and he kept getting a bad vibe from her. Her chakra was odd too. He knew he would have to keep an eye on her. Grover noticed this as well and we both nodded to each other. This was someone they would keep an eye out for because when RCY told them that he thought she was not human, Grover gave him a very serious look like he already knew and agreed with him. Naruto just didn't like her because she was an old hag. Anyway, Mr. Brunner just kept on talking about Greek funeral art. When Nancy blabbed about a naked man on the stele, Naruto saw Percy snapped and practically yelled at her to shut up. Mr. Jackson, came the voice of Mr. Brunner, did you have a comment? No sir, Percy replied, embarrassed by his outburst, which made Naruto shake his head. Sure, he was going to say the same to the redhead but Percy beat him to it. 'Cause he would embarrass her but say she was a pervert for the statue. The wheelchair man then pointed to one of the pictures on the stele, asking Percy what the picture meant. That's Kronos eating his kids, right? Yes, Mr. Brunner said, looking not that satisfied. And can you tell me why? Seeing Percy have a hard time answer that question, Naruto decided to intervene. The psycho take his kid because there was some prophecy telling him that his kids were going to take over one day like he did. Naruto explained, getting a sigh of relief from Percy. He was the Titan Lord so Enten got his panties in a bunch and ate his kids because of that, but all he really did was set the prophecy in motion and screwed himself over because his wife hid her last born, Zeus, and gave the guy a rock to eat. Talk about bad taste. Naruto joked, which made a lot of people laugh, including Mr. Brunner. Anyway, when Zeus was all grown up he tricked his dad into barfing up his brothers and sisters and well. The war between Titans and God came to be and the gods won. One of the girls commented on the barfing part. Of course in my opinion, I find it odd that even if the gods were immortal, That they survived in Rockhead's stomach all those years. They must have been really annoyed and was like, little brother, what took you so long? Do you know how boring it is inside a stomach? Naruto joked, making people snicker. Behind the two everyone heard Nancy Bobofit mumble, like we're going to use this in real life. Like it's going to say on our job applications, please explain why Kronos ate his kids. And why, Mr. Jackson, Mr. Uzumaki, Mr. Brunner said, to paraphrase Miss Bobofit's excellent question, does this matter in real life? Busted. Grover muttered. Shut up. Nancy barked at Grover, her face going redder than her hair. I don't know. Percy shrugged, a little relieved that Nancy was picked as well. Ya got me. Naruto said, maybe if we go to Greece we need to know this stuff. I see. Mr. Brunner said, a bit disappointed. Well, half credit to you both. Zeus did indeed feed Kronos a mixture of mustard and wine, which made him disgorge his other 5 children, who of course, being immortal gods, had been living and growing up completely undigested in the Titan's stomach. The gods defeated their father, sliced him to pieces with his own scythe, and scattered his remains in Tartarus, the darkest part of the underworld. On that happy note, it's time for lunch. Mrs. Dodds, would you lead us back outside? The class drifted off, the girls holding their stomachs. The guys were roughhousing like normal and acting like idiots. Grover, Percy, and Naruto were about to follow when Mr. Brunner said, Mr. Jackson, Mr. Uzumaki. They told Grov to keep one going while they handled whatever Wheels was going to say to them. Sir. Mr. Brunner had this look, like he knew a lot more than he let on and that had seen too much. You two must learn the answer to my question. About the Titans. Percy asked. About real life. And how your studies apply to it. Oh. The boys mumbled, though Naruto had the sinking feeling that the man was talking about both things. What you boys learn from me, he started, is vitally important. I expect you to treat it as such. I will only accept the best from both of you, Percy Jackson, Naruto Uzumaki. This made both of the boys a bit angry at the man. Sure, he was cool in class when he set up those tournament days, but the man was pushing the two of them a bit hard. Naruto felt like he was training with pervy sage, telling him what to do, not how to do it. The only improvement was that Mr. Brunner didn't ignore you for some pretty girl. Percy mumbled something about trying harder while Naruto just nodded his head as they left to go eat. Naruto noticed that Mr. Brunner gave a long sad look at the steel. It was odd to say the least. Hey, maybe the guy knew the girl, not likely. Scene change. The class gathered on the front steps of the museum, where they could watch the foot traffic along 5th Avenue. The boys noticed that storm clouds were brewing. Hey Naruto, what do you think is going on, with the weather and all? Naruto gave the boy an, are you serious look. You're asking me. I am not a weatherman, but odd stuff like this has been going on for a bit though. You see it all over the news nowadays. Strange this is no one else seems to notice the clouds other than us. It's like an otherworldly power or a genjutsu. With that, the two boys joined Grover as the fountain and sat down to eat. It was away from the others so they would not be bothered, and the fact that Percy didn't like being part of the school in the first made it seem that we're not part of the school for freaks. Of course, Naruto didn't care, but he was at first cheesed that he had to a school like this. Detention? Asked Grover. Nah, Percy answered, not from Brunner. I just wish he'd lay off me sometimes. I mean, I am not a genius. Naruto rolled his eyes and said, he could have told you or him that. But it is like he knows something about us. Hey, maybe we are related to some old Greek god or something. The boys looked at each other and then burst out laughing, though for Grover it was a nervous laugh. Where do you come up with this stuff? Laughed Percy holding his sides. After bit, they were quiet. Then Grover asked for Percy's apple and the boy gave it to him. Percy seemed a little lost in thought. Thinking about your mom again? Naruto asked. Yeah, we are kind of close to her place. I hope she is doing alright. I mean, she has been living with Gabe after all. Percy said, a little angry about her still with Gabe. Dude, I am sure she is alright. She'd put up with that slob this far. I am sure can do it a little bit longer. Still don't see what she sees in that guy though. Naruto commented. Percy nodded and was about to unwrap his sandwich when Nancy Bobofit and her annoying friends came over and got brave by dumping her lunch on Grover, making Naruto and Percy glare at her. Oops, she drawled out while smirking at Percy, as if daring him to do something about that. Naruto did not have a paper shuriken help some. Naruto could tell that Percy was pissed and was trying to keep his temper down and was failing miserably. Then something weird happened. The water froze. The fountain rose up and pushed her onto her butt. That is not what she saw though. Percy and Naruto pushed me. Then that old witch, Miss Dodds, came right up to them with a hard glare. Around them they heard whispers of what happened. Apparently, Naruto was not the only one to see the water move. After the old crone had made her Nancy was alright, she turned the two boys and started off with that, "Now honey, crud." But Percy beat her to it. "I know," Percy grumbled, "a month of erasing workbooks." Naruto just sighed, this old hag was probably going to give him something worse. Though, it old seemed that was not the right thing for Percy to say. "Both of you come with me." "Wait," Grover spoke, "it was me. I pushed her. We both started at Grover for that." Percy was stunned that Grover was trying to cover for them. Naruto was put off that Grover wanted to take the punishment for them. The old crone didn't seem to buy it and glared at him so hard that his chin trembled. He was scared of the old crone after all. "I don't think so, Mr. Underwood. But, you will stay here." Miss Dodds forcefully said each word with anger, making Grover shrink a bit. "It is okay, man," Percy said to his friend while Naruto nodded. With that, they left with Percy giving Nancy an evil glare while Naruto slowly took out a paper football, making the girl pale. That only made Naruto smirk. Though, when they looked back to Miss Dodds, she was already at the entrance of the museum. The boys looked at each other, thinking how the hell did she get over there so fast. Naruto got a gut feeling that this was not a good thing. Scene change. The boys walked to the end of the entrance, thinking that the old crone was going to make them buy a shirt to replace Nancy's wet one, but that seemed to not be the case because they walked right past the gift shop. Something is not right here. How far into the museum does she need to take us to bitch at us? Why do I have this feeling that I'm in for a fight? Naruto thought as they walked deeper into the museum. He looked to that Percy had the same thoughts as him. The small group made it back to the Greek and Roman gallery of the museum to find the place completely empty. They heard her growl as she looked at the marble picture of the Greek gods. "You boys have been making trouble for us," she said suddenly. This made the boys look at her oddly. Why was thinking about the candy he was selling while Naruto was thinking about the way he has been doing his homework and selling some of it to people who did not do theirs. "Well, I am not sure what you are talking about," Naruto replied. "Ma'am, I don't," Percy started, but the old crone didn't let him finish. "Your time is up," she hissed ominously. Then the weirdness came. Her eyes began to glow like barbecue coals. Her fingers stretched into talons. Her jacket melted into large, leathery wings. She was not human, that was for sure. She was pretty much an old bitch with bat wings and rosin, a mouth full of yellow fangs, and it seemed that she was the boys as her next meal. "Please tell me you see that too," Naruto whispered to Percy to fearfully nod. "Good, then I know that I'm not insane then." That is when things got even weirder, because Mr. Brunner, who had been reading a book at the entrance, was at the entrance of the gallery with a pen and 2 silver and black rings in his hands. "What ho, boys," the man yelled to them as he threw the items at them. That was when the old crone lunged at Percy. Naruto, thinking fast, made a seal appear on his pants and kunai holster appeared. He then took out 2 kunai and threw them at whatever Miss Dodds had turned into. "Get away from my friend, you vampire reject." While he had dodged that, he then saw Percy catch the pen. But the odd thing was that it had turned to a goldish sword. He then caught the rings in time to flip out of the way of Miss Dodds' claws. Percy's eyes widened when he saw his friend's new weapons. In Naruto's hand were 2 identical twin blades. They were 2.5 feet long and curved. Bronze and black metal mixed seemed to be the blades. Naruto rolled over to where Percy was and looked at Miss Dodds. She was getting up from her strike at Naruto and she looked pretty intimidating. Percy looked shaken by this, and it did not help that Naruto was a bit scared too. He had never fought something like this before. Then, she charged at the boys and they thought of were to stab her, and they did. Just as their blades met, the old crone burst in a shower of yellow powder. It was Lee. Keishi vaporized on the spot with nothing but the smell of sulfur and a dying screech that sent chills up their spines. There was an evil chill in the air, like those creepy eyes were watching their every move. The boys were now alone in the gallery once more. They looked back to their weapons and were shocked to find something different in their possession. Percy had a gold ballpoint pen while Naruto had the rings in his. "Okay," Naruto said out loud, "I think we should get back to the others, something odd is defiantly going on here." "Right," Percy agreed when he saw that Mr. Brunner was not in the room they were in. Back outside, it had started raining. Grover was using his museum map as a tent to keep himself from getting too wet, while Nancy was still wet from earlier. She looked to them and smirked. "I hope Mrs. Kerr whipped your butts." "Who?" Percy let out. "Art teacher, duh." The boys blinked, asking who that was, but all she did was walk away. They asked Grover where the old crone was. But he just gave them an odd look and asked, who? But he did pause first before saying it, like he knew something was going on. Not funny, man. Percy said, this is serious. He didn't answer as thunder boomed overhead. Shaking his head, Naruto led Percy over to Mr. Brunner, who was under a red umbrella reading his book, like he never moved. He looked up distracted and asked, my pen and my lucky rings. Please bring your own writing utensil in the future, Mr. Jackson. Oh, and thank you for finding my lucky rings, Mr. Uzumaki, he said as they boys handed the items to him. Sir, Percy started, where is Miss Dodds? Quote, who? He said with a blank face. You know, the other chaperone, the math teacher. Naruto explained. Boys, there is now Miss Dodds on this trip, nor is there one in the school. Are you boys feeling all right? He asked concerned. The boys just sighed and left, making their way back to Grover. On the way back, Naruto muttered out, is it me or is something going on here and we're missing it? Life after the freak show went on like normal, well as normal as it could get in this school. For the rest of the year both the boys were a bit put off by the revelation that Miss Dodds never existed. In her place was a perky blonde woman named Mrs. Kerr. When either of the boys would ask something about the old hag, people just looked at them like they were nuts. Naruto, however, did like the new teacher thought. She was a refreshing change from the old crone. Though he still knew something was up, he knew that something had happened at the museum. Everyone else seemed to not even know what the hell they were talking about. Grover seemed like he did. He would always hesitate before denying it though. He was such a bad liar. Anyway, that freak storm continued. And one time it blew out the windows in Percy's dorm. Luckily, Naruto offered him a place to stay until things were fixed and ready to go to his place. A few days later, the biggest tornado ever spotted in the Hudson Valley touched down only 50 from Yancey Academy, which was scary in itself. Luckily they didn't get hurt. Percy started feeling cranky and irritable most of the time. His grades slipped from D's to F's. He got into more fights with Nancy Bobofit and her friends. He was sent out into the hallway in almost every class. Naruto was in some of his class. He was feeling the same way. He stayed under control. Most of the time, he was getting really annoyed if anything else. And when Naruto was annoyed or bored he went on a pranking spree. So far he filled the pools with orange jello, paint every single locker. Insides too, neon orange. And somehow got the statue of the school founder in a hideous green one-piece jumpsuit with orange leg warmers. He also used black permanent marker to make thick eyebrows on the head. No one figure out how he managed to do that. And what sent Percy and Grover over the top was Naruto telling them that Might Guy and Rock Lee wore that every single day in his home. Though when Percy got in trouble for calling their English teacher an old sock, whatever that meant, the school sent a letter his mom telling her that Percy would not be allowed back next year. The boy's mood lifted. But just a little bit. Naruto could tell Percy missed his mom because he hated that fact that she was with Gabe of all people. The kid was homesick, no surprise there. He felt it too. He even wondered when he gets to see his mom like the scroll said. Naruto sighed as he came to reality. Exam week was come up soon and he, like Percy and Grover, had to study. Like Shikamaru says, it is going to be a drag. Scene change. The night before the exam started, Naruto and Percy decided to have a study session at Percy's dorm. Throughout the night, Naruto could see that Percy was getting more and more agitated. Finally he threw his book across the room. Man, what did that book say to you this time? Naruto commented, trying livening up the atmosphere. Sorry, but how the hell am I supposed to know the difference, Kyren and Karen? Simple, one has an I and the other has an A in their name. Naruto smartly said with smirk. Percy slapped his face and gave Naruto a glare. Okay, let me help you then. Kyren, the one with the I, trains heroes and is a horse's ass. Then we have Karen, the one with the A, he is the ferryman of the dead who would sell his mother for gold. Is that how you remember everything? Give it a short description while it could insult them. Percy asked while trying to hide a smirk. Hey, easier for me to remember stuff like that. Naruto smiled. Hey, I need one for Zeus. Should I go with ego the size of the sky or skirt chaser? The two looked at each other before saying at the same time, skirt chaser. But my way might not be best for you. Everyone has a different way of remembering stuff. Yeah, Percy said. I can't believe I am saying this, but I think I should go see Mr. Brunner. He might have a way that is good for me. Want me to come? Naruto asked. Yeah, so I don't feel like a total idiot going down there. Percy replied and got up to get his book. Naruto just laughed. Too late for that man, he said as he ignored Percy's glare. They walked downstairs to the faculty offices. Most of them were dark and empty, but Mr. Brunner's door was ajar, light from his window stretching across the hallway floor. They were 3 steps from the door handle when the duo heard voices inside the office. Mr. Brunner asked a question. A voice that was definitely Grover's said, "Worried about Percy and Naruto, sir." The boys froze at that. They nodded and leaned in to eavesdrop. Not that they did it a lot, but when a friend is talking about you to a teacher, you'd want to what was going on. "Alone this summer," Grover was saying. "I mean, a kindly one in the school. Now that we know for sure, and they know too. We would only make matters worse by rushing them," Mr. Brunner said. "We need the boys to mature more. But he may not have time. The summer solstice deadline will have to be resolved without them, Grover. Let him enjoy his ignorance while he still can." "Sir, they saw her. Their imagination," Mr. Brunner insisted. "The mist over the students and staff will be enough to convince them of that." "Sir, I can't fail in my duties again." Grover's voice was choked with emotion. "You know what that would mean. You haven't failed, Grover," Mr. Brunner said kindly. "I should have seen her for what she was. Now let's just worry about keeping Percy and Naruto alive until next fall." The mythology book that Percy had brought with him fell to the floor and Naruto's eyes widened in panic as all went silent. As soon as Percy grabbed the book, Naruto grabbed Percy and they ran for it. Percy saw something larger than Mr. Brunner come out of the room. He steered them to a nearby room to hide for a bit. A few seconds later they heard a slow clop clop clop, like muffled wood blocks. Then a sound like an animal snuffling right outside the door. A large, dark shape paused in front of the glass, and then moved on. Both the boys were sweating. That was too close. "Somewhere in the hallway," Mr. Brunner spoke. "Nothing," he murmured. "My nerves haven't been right since the winter solstice." "Mine neither," Grover said. "But I could have sworn." "Go back to the dorm," Mr. Brunner told him. "You've got a long day of exams tomorrow. Don't remind me." They heard Grover whine. When the lights went off in Mr. Brunner's office went off, they bolted out of the room. They were hiding like a bat out hell. When they made it back to Percy's dorm, he locked the door. "Okay, now we know for sure something is going on." "Yeah, but what and who would want us dead? I mean, they talked as if someone was after our heads." Naruto pondered. "Hey, you can stay the night," Percy said. "I mean, you're the ninja here and if anything happens we would have a better chance at surviving." "Fine with me," Naruto said. He then sighed. "I just hope we survive the exams." Percy paled and then hung his head, once again reminded of the exams and why they went down there in the first place. "I'm so screwed." Just then Grover walked in like nothing had happened. "Hey, how are you guys doing on the studying?" When they both hung their heads and didn't say anything, he got worried. "You guys okay?" Naruto answered, "Yep, we're screwed." Scene change. The next afternoon, they finally got out of their 3-hour Latin exam. 3 hours of that crazy, inhuman, hell. Naruto complained, "Tests back home were never like this. My eyes are swimming with all the Greek and Roman names that I misspelled." Percy complained as he held his head. Unfortunately, Mr. Brunner called them back in. "Percy," he said, "don't be discouraged about leaving Yancey. It's for the best." He then turned to Naruto and asked, "What about you?" "Well, I am split between staying here for Grover's sake or going wherever Percy goes so he won't be the only new kid. Oh, and don't worry, I am used to hopping around. Mostly hopping worlds and trees, but you don't need to know that." When they were talking, Percy was getting annoyed by Nancy Bobofit who, like some others, was still taking the test. "I see," Mr. Brunner commented. "I guess this place is not the right place for you boys then. It's only a matter of time." Naruto glanced at Percy sadly to see that Percy was upset. His favorite teacher at this dump of a school and in front of a whole freaking class was telling him that he couldn't handle it here. This Naruto pissed off. Percy was his best friend in this land after all. No, Mr. Brunner said. "Oh, confound it all. What I'm trying to say, you're not normal, Percy, and neither are you, Naruto." "That's nothing to be. Thanks," he blurted. "Thanks a lot, sir, for reminding me." "Percy," he called out, but Percy was already out the door. Naruto looked from the door to Mr. Brunner and scowled. "Mr. Brunner, maybe you should take some classes about speaking. You knew a lot of lessons," Naruto said as he left to chase after his friend. Scene change. On the last day of the term, Naruto watched as Percy shoved his clothes into his suitcase. They listened to the other guys brag about where they were going this summer. Those idiots may be juvenile delinquents, but they were also rich juvenile delinquents. One of them asked Percy and Naruto where they were going. "My home in the city for the summer," Percy replied. "Same here." Naruto said, scaring Percy since he did know he had arrived yet. When did you get here? Percy asked, still not used to Naruto popping up out of nowhere. Hey, a few minutes ago man, chuckled Naruto. Oh, Percy replied, so remind me again why I am going with you to your place for the day. Naruto said, well, you can tell I have been a bit peeved lately and you usually help out when I am in a bad mood. So, I guess I need you to keep me in ch. Because Gabe is going to really piss me off. Keep you from shooting your mouth off, got it? Naruto commented, and then his eyes lit up. You know, I live right in the middle. You know, from your apartment to the school. I just noticed that. Good, then you can come over more often. Percy mumbled as they left the school dorms to get on a bus, though he was wondering how Naruto got from his home to school in time for class. Must be a ninja thing. Scene change. Both boys were dreading how they were going to say goodbye to Grover, but luckily for them, he was on the bus they were on. The whole bus ride, they saw that Grover was very fidgety, like he was expecting something to come out the works to come after him or us. He was like this every time they left the school campus, odd. How Percy was getting annoyed by it and he blurted out, looking for kindly ones. Naruto smacked his head while Grover nearly jumped out of his seat. Wah, what do you mean? They boy confessed about eavesdropping on his and Mr. Brunner's conversation the night before the exams. Grover's eye twitched. How much did you hear? Oh, not much. What's the summer solstice deadline? Percy asked. Or is that too much for you to handle? Naruto smirked. He winced. Look, guys, I was just worried for you, see? I mean, hallucinating about demon math teachers. Grover, dude. And I was telling Mr. Brunner that maybe you guys were overstressed or something, because there was no such person as Mrs. Dodds, and, dude, you suck at lying. Naruto blurted out, making Grover sputter and his ear turn pink. From his shirt pocket, he fished out a couple of grubby business cards. Just take this, okay? In case you need me this summer. The card was in fancy script, which was murder on their dyslexic eyes. But they finally made out something like Grover Underwood, Keeper, Half-Blood Hill, Long Island, New York. 800-009-0009. What's half? Percy started. Don't say it aloud, he yelped. That's my, summer address. That made Naruto roll his eyes. He didn't buy that for a minute, but his friendship with Grover stopped him from saying so. Percy looked a little sad that even Grover had a summer home like the other people at school. At least Naruto is like me and lives close. Okay, he said glumly. So, like, if I want to come visit your mansion. He nodded. Or if you need me. Why would I need you? Percy growled out harshly, surprising even Naruto. Grover blushed right down to his Adam's apple. Look, Percy, the truth is, I kind of have to protect you, both of you. He said, making the boys look at him oddly. I mean, they were the one who had to protect him in the school. Grover, Percy said, what exactly are you protecting us from? Before he could answer, here was a huge grinding noise under our feet. Black smoke poured from the dashboard and the whole bus filled with a smell like rotten eggs. The driver cursed and limped the Greyhound bus over to the side of the highway. After a few minutes clanking around in the engine compartment, the driver announced that they'd all have to get off. Percy, Naruto, and Grover filed outside with everybody else. Hey, we're on a stretch of country road, no place you would notice if you didn't break down there. On our side of the highway was nothing but maple trees and litter from passing cars. On the other side, across 4 lanes of asphalt shimmering with afternoon heat, was an old-fashioned fruit stand. Couldn't we break down somewhere with more shade? Naruto commented while hitting the back of his head on the bus. Raising an eyebrow, he took a look at the fruit stand on the other side of the street. The stuff on sale looked really good, heaping boxes of blooded cherries and apples, walnuts and apricots. Jugs of cider in a clawfoot tub full of ice. There were no customers, just 3 old ladies sitting in rocking chairs in the shade of a maple tree, knitting the biggest pair of socks they'd ever seen. These were no ordinary socks. They were as big as sweaters. Who wears socks that big? The lady on the right knitted one of them. The lady on the left knitted the other. The lady in the middle held an enormous basket of electric blue yarn. All 3 women looked ancient, with pale faces wrinkled like fruit leather, silver hair tied back in white bandanas, bony arms sticking out of bleached cotton dresses. The creepy thing is that they were staring right at Percy and Naruto. Talk about creepy. Naruto commented. Hey Grover, whatever Naruto was going to ask died in his throat seeing Grover. You okay man? Percy asked when he saw Grover's face. They looked at Grover to see that all the color had drained out of him, that and his nose was twitching. Tell me, are they looking at you too? They or aren't they? Yeah, weird, huh? You think those socks would fit me? Asked Percy in a joking manner. Not likely. Naruto replied, getting really freaked out. I think they would fit Gamabunta though. Not funny you two. Not funny at all. Grover whined. What is eating you? Naruto asked. Grover only pointed to the old ladies. The old lady in the middle took out a huge pair of scissors, gold and silver, long-bladed. Like shears. They heard Grover catch his breath. We're getting on the bus, he told them. Come on. What? Percy said. It's 1,000 degrees in there. You actually like the heat, Grover. When you are hot you smell like a wet barn animal. Naruto complained. Come on. He pried open the door and climbed inside while his friends stay back for a bit. Across the road, the old ladies were still watching them. The middle one cut the yarn, which they could hear that snip across 4 lanes of traffic. Her 2 friends balled up the electric blue socks, leaving them wondering who they could possibly be for, probably for Bigfoot or the Jersey Devil. Naruto rolled his eyes and climbed into the bus. Come on, let go see Grover before he wets himself. At the rear of the bus, the driver wrenched a big chunk of smoking metal out of the engine compartment, the bus shuddered, and the engine roared back to life and everyone cheered. Darn right, yelled the driver. He slapped the bus with his hat. Everybody back on board. Took him long enough, Naruto drawled as he walked to the back with Percy. Once the bus got going, Percy got all feverish lick. He got the flu while Naruto started sweating and complaining about the heat. Grover was not any better but he was chatting his teeth like he was cold. Grover? Asked Percy. Yeah, what are you not telling us? Grover dabbed his forehead with his shirt sleeve. Percy, Naruto, what did you two see back at the fruit stand? A few old ladies with way too much free time. Naruto replied while putting a hand on his forehead and wiping off the sweat. Yeah, Percy smirked but lost it at Grover's serious face. Wait, they're not like Miss Dodds are they? The look he gave them made it seem worse. What could be worse? Just tell me what you saw. The middle one took out her scissors, and she cut the yarn. Percy shrugged, like it was nothing. Grover closed his eyes and made a gesture with his fingers that might have been crossing himself, but it wasn't. It was something else, something almost older. Now that is odd, he said. You saw her snip the cord. Tell me it didn't happen. Yeah, so, Percy replied, getting the feeling like it was something big. This is not happening, Grover mumbled. He started chewing at his thumb. I don't want this to be like the last time. What last time? The boys asked, getting freaked out as much as Grover was now. Always 6th grade. They never get past 6th. Grover mumbled to himself again. Grover, Percy said, because he was really starting to get scared. What are you talking about? Quote, let me walk you two home from the bus station. Promise me. This seemed like a strange request but they promised he could. It is no problem, I am going over to his place anyway. Naruto replied. Is this like a superstition or something? Percy asked, but got no answer. Grover, that snipping of the yarn. Does that mean somebody is going to die? He looked at the two mournfully. Like he was already picking the kind of flowers that would be best on their coffins. That is when the cogs of Naruto's mind started churning and rapidly. The things that they've been happening lately in all the Greek mythology they had been learning finally caught up to him. Those 3 old crones were something that he paled at. Oh crud. What? Percy said, freaked out that Naruto was scared now. Fate or in this case fates do exist. Naruto replied, while Percy and Grover gawked at him. If Neji was here he would never let me live this down. Night the Raven, as is. Aid to my other readers I won't spoil it for you guys. Naruto, talking. Naruto, thinking. Naruto, jutsu. I don't own Naruto or Percy Jackson. Start story. The rest of bus ride they listened to Grover freak out to himself the whole way. So it was not a surprise that when it was over that Grover had to go to the restroom. You see, when Grover get upset, his bladder act up. And but act up means a gallon of water going through a little just getting potty trained. So when Grover went to the bathroom at the bus station, the boys quickly got away. Percy hailed a cab and they jumped in. East 104th and 1st. Percy told the driver, while Naruto made the shadow clone hand sign. Percy looked at him oddly when nothing happened. What was that about? As the yellow cab drove them away from the bus station, Naruto replied, I made one outside. You know Grover will freak out as he had been about not being able to protect you. Besides, I think it is time he knows what I can do. Percy gave Naruto a small smile and said, you know you are going to give him a heart attack. Naruto gave Percy a smirk as they traveled to his mom's apartment. Along the way, Percy told Naruto all about his mom. My mom's name is Sally Jackson and she is the best person in the world. That also proves my theory that the best people have the rottenest luck. Percy said as Naruto nodded, having heard that from him a few weeks ago. Scene change. Grover got out of the bathroom and looked around for Percy and Naruto. He only saw Naruto with his arms crossed. Hey Naruto, where is Percy? He went home. Naruto replied, making Grover's eyes widen. Don't worry though, I am with him. What? How can that be possible? You were right here. Grover freaked. Grover, Mr. Brunner was right. Percy is not normal, and in a sense, neither am I. Naruto explained, making Grover sweat under the blonde's gaze. Weird stuff has been going on lately, and it has been going on most of Percy's life. Me on the other hand, I think that stuff is a bit normal, the thing with people trying to kill you. Naruto then looked around them to see that the bus station was completely empty, everyone had left a while ago. I know I am not normal because I have powers that normal humans don't have, remember that Grover, because that helped me protect Percy like you want. With that, Naruto disappeared in a poof of white smoke. Grover had a look of pure shock on his face. By the gods. Scene change. The unknown demigod duo made it to Percy's apartment and paid. Percy looked up at the apartment nervously and said, Naruto, are you sure want to come in? Smelly Gabe is a real jerk and he will not be any different to you. Naruto smiled with a bit of annoyance. Yeah Percy, you told me about your mom and all her history, and I still can't figure why she is with this Gabe. Don't worry, I won't anger him much. You know me. I know that why I'm asking. I'm just getting a bad feeling about this. Percy said as they entered the building, hoping his mom would be home from work. Instead, Smelly Gabe was in the living room, playing poker with his buddies. The television blared ESPN. Chips and beer cans were strewn all over the carpet. Wow, it is worse than I expected, and I expected something bad. Naruto thought with a deadpan expression. Hardly looking up, Gabe said around his cigar, so, you're home, who is your loser friend? Naruto, where's my mom? Percy replied shortly. Working, he said. You got any cash? That made Percy rolled his eyes. What? No, welcome back. Good to see you. How has your life been the last 6 months? Figures. Percy noticed that Gabe had put on weight. He looked like a tuskless walrus in thrift store clothes. He had about 3 hairs on his head, all combed over his bald scalp. As if that made him handsome or something. This guy managed the electronics mega mart in Queens, but he stayed home most of the time. It was a wonder why he hadn't been fired long before. He just kept on collecting paychecks, spending the money on cigars that made Percy nauseous, and on beer, of course, always beer. Whenever Percy was home, he expected him to provide his gambling funds. He called that their guy secret. Meaning, if he told his mom, he would punch his lights out. Of course Naruto knew, as he had told him along the way. Naruto was not happy about that. I don't have any cash. Naruto heard Percy tell him, which made the man raise a greasy eyebrow. Percy had told Naruto that the man could smell money but not much else, which was very odd. You took a taxi from the bus station, he said. Probably paid with a 20. Got 7 bucks in change. Somebody expects to live under this roof, he ought to carry his own weight. Am I right, Eddie? Eddie, the super of the apartment building, looked at Percy with a twinge of sympathy. Come on, Gabe, he said. The kid just got here. Am I right? Gabe repeated. Eddie scowled into his bowl of pretzels. The other 2 guys, Naruto noticed, passed gas in harmony. Fine, Percy said. He dug a wad of dollars out of his pocket and threw the money on the table. I hope you lose. Before anything could be said or done, Naruto put a hand on Percy's shoulder and the money. Percy looked at Naruto oddly before he noticed the gleam in Naruto's eye. Oh, Gabe was so screwed. How is it you can smell money and not the fact you need about a dozen showers? Naruto added, ignoring the glare and sniggers, how about I play? You can take my money if I lose. Percy smirked. He knew from experience, and a lot of others at school too, that Naruto never lost at card games, no matter how hard some of them try and cheat, and he didn't even know how to play some of them. What? A brat like you, Gabe said, eyeing Naruto, still mad about the shower comment. And the fact his poker buddies found it funny. Afraid of being beat by a kid. Naruto smirked. Besides, I got a few $100, are you going to pass up on that? That got Gabe's attention. Even though he was mad, Naruto did have money. He would win it from this brat and rub it in his face. Fine, sit down and play. Good. Naruto sat down and leaned over to Percy. This will be over soon. You should get settled in, it is your place after all. As the game began, Percy nodded and left. He would wait for Gabe to lose to Naruto. He slammed the door to his room, which really wasn't his room. During school months, it was Gabe's study, and he uses that term loosely. The man didn't study anything in there except old car magazines, but Gabe loved shoving Percy's stuff in the closet, leaving his muddy boots on my windowsill, and doing his best to make the place smell like his nasty cologne and cigars and stale beer. Percy dropped his suitcase on the bed. Home sweet home. Oh joy. As he thought about other stuff, he didn't know how much time had passed. He walked to his door in time to hear two things. Gabe's crying out, which he knew from experience. That it was the cry of a loser and his mom calling him. It seemed that she was home now. I think this day just got better. She opens the door and looked at Percy with a smile on her face. Oh, Percy, she hugged him tightly. I can't believe it. You've grown since Christmas. Thanks, Mom, Percy said. Her red, white and blue Sweet on America uniform smelled like the best things in the world, chocolate, licorice, and all the other stuff she sold at the candy shop in Grand Central. She'd brought him a huge bag of free samples, the way she always did when he came home. So who is your friend out there that is beating everyone at poker so badly? Oh, that is Naruto Uzumaki. He is a good friend from school. Percy replied. Good to know you have a friend, Sally Jackson said softly as she hugged him again. Percy then began to tell her all about his school year at Yancey Academy. It seriously was not as bad as the headmaster said it was. He didn't really tell her much about the museum because it still freaked him out. Did something scare you? No, Mom, Percy lied, but whatever happened seemed to revolve around both me and Naruto, he said, making her eyes widen. So, Percy found a friend like himself. That is good because if he ever got to that world, he would really need a friend. Mrs. Jackson thought to herself. From the other room, Gabe yelled, Hey, Sally, how about some bean dip, huh? Figures. Even if he is beaten, he is still a jerk, Percy thought while grinding his teeth. Oh, never mind. Your brat of a friend got it for us, came Gabe's voice again. Percy gave a weak smile when he heard that. I so owe you for this, Naruto. I have a surprise for you, Sally said. We're going to the beach. Percy's eyes widened. Montauk. 3 nights, same cabin. When? She smiled. As soon as I get changed. Quote. He couldn't believe it. They hadn't been to Montauk the last 2 summers, because Gabe said there wasn't enough money. He then looked at her hopeful and said, Can Naruto come too? He can pay, I am sure, from all the money he took from Gabe. She laughed and nodded her head. I don't see the problem with that. With that they left his room and walked out to esteeming Gabe and a smirking Naruto with a bunch of bills in front of him. Gabe's friends were looking at Naruto like he was the holy god of poker. Gabe looked at them and regains his composure and said, You were in there a long time. Quote. Oh, we were just talking about the trip, Sally said happily. Gabe's eyes got small. The trip? You mean you were serious about that? I knew it, Percy muttered. He won't let us go. Of course he will, his mom said evenly. Your stepfather is just worried about money, that's all. Besides, she added, Gabriel won't have to settle for bean dip. I'll eat him enough 7-layer dip for the whole weekend. Guacamole, sour cream, the works. Gabe softened a bit. So this money for your trip, it comes out of your clothes budget, right? Because I lost most of mine to this brat, the fat man said while jutting his pudgy finger at Naruto, who had an innocent look on his face. He had his palms together as if he was praying, and Percy could have sworn he saw a glowing golden halo. Yes, honey, Sally said, and you won't take my car anywhere but there and back. We'll be very careful. Gabe scratched his double chin. Maybe if you hurry with that 7-layer dip. And maybe if the kid apologizes for interrupting my poker game. Maybe if I kick you in your soft spot, Percy thought. And make you sing soprano for a week. He looked to his mom. And it was a silent agreement that he had to be nice to Gabe if this was going to work. I'm sorry, Percy muttered. I'm really sorry I interrupted your incredibly important poker game. Please go back to it right now. Gabe narrowed his eyes, trying to detect sarcasm in what Percy said. Yeah, whatever. He then turned to Naruto. No more for you, ever. Go away. Naruto just shrugged and walked over to Percy and his mom. Oh, Naruto, would you like to come with us? She asked. Sure. Are you sure you want someone like me on board? Yes, you are Percy's friend after all, so you must be a good kid. Sally replied, making Gabe rolled his eyes. Okay then, I hope you don't mind me paying for my stuff since I now have quite a bit of money. Naruto said, pocketing his money, which was about $500. He smirked when he heard Gabe complain about having to pay for Naruto's trip. Thank you, Sally said with a smile because she heard it too. Once we get to Montauk, we'll talk more about whatever you've forgotten to tell me. Okay, she said to Percy. Naruto just knew that he told his mom about a little of what happened. "Oh Naruto, do we need to go to your place for you to pack?" Before Gabe could complain, Naruto replied, "Nah, I got my stuff with me. Since I hung out at Percy's dorm at Lot, I hardly ever went home to my apartment, which is the halfway point from here to school." "Oh, okay then, Mrs. Jackson said, thinking that Naruto probably left his stuff somewhere near here. She then gave Percy a smile and went to make the dip for the fat dip. An hour later, they were all ready to go. Naruto had a backpack on now and Sally wondered where it had come from. Percy just smiled, "If only you knew Mom." Gabe watched as Naruto and Percy put all the bags in the car. The ugly M. and groaned about losing his wife's cooking and then his car all weekend, which, unlike him, was cool. It was a '78 Camaro. "Not a scratch on this car, brain boy, poker brat," he warned them as they loaded the last bag. "Not one little scratch." Naruto just gave him a one-fingered saluted as the fat man lumbered back in the apartment. He knew that Gabe really pissed Percy off and he now understood why. He was getting pissed at this guy as well and he just met the guy. He then saw Percy make that odd gesture that Grover did on the bus and whatever he did worked because as soon smelly Gabe was in the doorway. The screen door slammed shut and probably sent the man flying. The two boys quickly got in the car and Percy told his mom to step on it as they didn't want to feel Gabe's wrath. After a bit, Naruto could not help but laugh at what he was happened. Though, that weird gesture Percy used had energy similar to chakra. Scene change. Once they got there, Naruto smiled as he loved places like this. They set their stuff in the cabin that they got and messed around till it was dark out. They were currently sitting around a small fire, roasting hot dogs and marshmallows. "Mom, what was my father like?" Percy asked with some courage. "He was kind, Percy," she said. "Tall, handsome, and powerful. But gentle, too. You have his black hair, you know, and his green eyes." She fished a blue jelly bean out of her candy bag. "I wish he could see you, Percy. He would be so proud." Percy looked a little sad at that. Naruto thought that the kid was thinking about how his father would be proud of him with all that happened. "How old was I?" Percy asked. "I mean, when he left." She watched the flames. "He was only with me for one summer, Percy. Right here at this beach. This cabin even. But, he knew me as a baby." "No, honey. He knew I was expecting a baby, but he never saw you. He had to leave before you were born," she said and then looked to Naruto, who had been silent for the conversation. "Naruto, what are your parents like?" Naruto chuckled a bit, but it was hollow. "I am an orphan. I never really knew my parents. But I was given some stuff of my mother's. She had a journal that described my dad. It said he was a fighter, a genius in the art. He was considered the best there was. No one really wanted to fight him if they could help it, and those that were dumb enough to were beat into the ground. From what it said, he sounds pretty cool." That made Percy chuckle a bit and his mom had a big smile on her face. "I am sorry about that," Sally said. "Who is taking care of you?" "Don't be. My grandfather was taking care of my before he died," Naruto said, not wanting to tell them that he was killed. "But I have been doing pretty well on my own anyway." Then Percy had a sad look. He didn't know if his mom even wanted him around. He didn't think he could handle being alone like Naruto. "Are you going to send me away again?" Percy asked her. "To another boarding school." She pulled a marshmallow from the fire. "I don't know, honey." Her voice was heavy. I think we'll have to do something. Because you don't want me around." But he regretted the words as soon as they were out. Her eyes welled with tears. She took his hand, squeezed it tight. "Oh, Percy, no. I have to, honey. For your own good, I have to send you away." This made Naruto quirk an eyebrow. "Okay. The way she is saying this means she knows something like Grover and Mr. Brunner. Because I'm not normal," Percy suddenly said. "You say that as if it's a bad thing, Percy. But you don't realize how important you are. I thought Yancey Academy would be far enough away. I thought you'd finally be safe." "Safe from what?" Percy asked, though when he locked eyes with her, all the memories of weird things happening to him had surfaced. Before anything else was said, Naruto cut in. "Percy, not being normal is not that bad. I mean, look at me. I have this powers and I am fine." Mrs. Jackson looked at him oddly and he sighed, knowing that he would have to show her. He held out his hand and swirling ball of energy formed in his hand. Percy's eyes widened and said, "You never showed that one to me, only those shadow clones." Shadow. Could he be just like Percy, a son of the big three? Sally thought as she eyed the ball before it dissipated. She gave Naruto a grateful look and continued on. "I've tried to keep you as close to me as I could," she said to Percy. "They told me that was a mistake. But there's only one other option, Percy, the place your father wanted to send you. And I just I just can't stand to do it. My father wanted me to go to a special school. Not a school, she said softly. A summer camp, and apparently it is a place you both need to go to. Both boys just looked at her oddly. Naruto never heard anything about a camp in the letter he got from his mom. I'm sorry, Percy, she said, seeing the look in his eyes. But I can't talk about it. I couldn't send you to that place. It might mean saying goodbye to you for good. For good, but if it's only a summer camp. Percy trailed off as he saw the tears in his mom's eyes. Scene change. It was storming out, but both boys were sound asleep and they were having strange dreams. It was storming on the beach, and two beautiful animals, a white horse, and a golden eagle were trying to kill each other at the edge of the surf. The eagle swooped down and slashed the horse's muzzle with its huge talons. The horse reared up and kicked at the eagle's wings. As they fought, the ground rumbled, and a.m. Monstrous voice chuckled somewhere beneath the earth, goading the animals to fight harder. Percy ran toward them, knowing he had to stop them from killing each other, but the problem was that he was running in slow motion. He knew he would be too late. He saw the eagle dive down, its beak aimed at the horse's wide eyes. The boy had enough and screamed, no. Naruto's was different. He was standing alone in a rainbow-colored mist. It swirled around as he heard someone in the distance. It was hard to hear what they were saying. It was as if they were talking over a bad radio. Naruto, he looked out trying to see anything. Then he could barely make out a woman's silhouette. And as he could feel himself leaving the dream, he heard the words, my son. They woke up with a start like it was a nightmare. Outside, it really was storming, the kind of storm that cracks trees and blows down houses. There was no horse, eagle, or Mr. Woman on the beach, just lightning making false daylight. And 20-foot waves pounding the dunes like cannon fire. With the next thunderclap, Percy's mom awoke. She sat up, eyes wide, and said, hurricane. Percy knew that was crazy. Long Island nay. Veer sees hurricanes this early in the summer. But the ocean seemed to have forgotten this fact. Over the roar of the wind, he heard a distant bellow, an angry, tortured sound that made his hair stand on end. Then a much closer noise. Like mallets in the sand. A desperate voice, someone yelling, pounding on our cabin door. Mrs. Jackson sprang out of bed in her nightgown and threw open the lock. Grover stood framed in the doorway against a backdrop of pouring rain. But he wasn't exactly Grover. Searching all night, he gasped. What were you two thinking? Mrs. Jackson looked at them in terror, not scared of Grover, but of why he'd come. They both were too shocked at the moment to register that, however. Because, instead of normal legs, Grover had legs that were like an animal's, sort of like a donkey or maybe a goat. Percy, she said, shouting to be heard over the rain. What happened at school? What didn't you tell me? Ozu kai alloy theo I. Grover yelled. It's right behind me. Didn't you tell her? You mean the kindly one you blabbed about, or the old crones who are the fates? Naruto shouted above the noise, making Percy's mom widen her eyes in horror. She grabbed her purse, tossed Percy and Naruto a rain jacket, and said, get to the car. All of you, go. Grover ran for the Camaro, but he wasn't running, exactly. He was trotting, shaking his shaggy hindquarters. And suddenly his story about a muscular disorder in his legs made sense to me. That would explain how he could run so fast and still limp when he walked. The group tore through the night along dark country roads. Wind slammed against the Camaro. Rain lashed the windshield. The boys honestly didn't know how Percy's mom could see anything, but she kept her foot on the gas. Naruto looked at Grover oddly, and when the lightning flashed, he saw those goat legs. He sighed, already knowing what he was, and knew that Grover was on their side, hopefully. So, you and my mom know each other? Percy asked, not able to stay silent. Grover's eyes flitted to the rearview mirror, though there were no cars behind them. Not exactly, he said. I mean, we've never met in person. But she knew I was watching you. Watching me. Keeping tabs on you. Making sure you were okay. But I wasn't faking being your friend, he added hastily. I am your friend. What are you, exactly? Percy asked. That doesn't matter right now. It doesn't matter. From the waist down, my best friend is a donkey. Grover let out a sharp, throaty, blah ha ha. Naruto could tell that Grover a bit ticked, but he still laughed. That was really funny to him. Goat. Grover cried. What? Once getting himself under control, Naruto helped the poor guy out. Percy, he is a satyr, a being that is half human and half goat. Huh, but, you would mean Mr. Brunner's myths. You paid attention to that. Naruto smirked. No wonder the world is ending. Percy just glared at him. Okay. Anyway, with the way Grover reacted, I am assuming that other satyr would trample you for that donkey remark. I thought it didn't matter. Percy shot back while Grover bleated again. Apparently it does. Naruto replied with a smirk. Wait, so all that Mr. Brunner taught us was actually preparing us for this stuff? Pretty much. Grover said. Great, Naruto replied sarcastically. Just what we need. Freaky monsters coming after us. Not only that, but those 3 old ladies were the Fates and not myths, and neither was Mrs. Dodds. Grover told them. So you admit there was a Mrs. Dodds? Percy exclaimed. Of course. Okay, Oh, what was the point of hiding the fact that she was real? Naruto asked. The less you knew, the fewer monsters you'd attract, Grover said, like that should be perfectly obvious. We put mist over the human's eyes. We hoped you'd think the kindly one was a hallucination. But it was no good. You both started to realize who you are. Wait a minute, what do you mean? Percy asked. Yeah, you lost me after less we knew. Naruto deadpanned. The weird bellowing noise rose up again somewhere behind us, closer than before. Whatever was chasing us was still on our trail. Percy, his mom said. There's too much to explain and not enough time. We have to get you two to safety. Safety from what? Who's after us? Percy asked while Naruto raised an eyebrow. Oh, nobody much, Grover said, obviously still miffed about the donkey comment. Just the Lord of the Dead and a few of his bloodthirstiest minions. Grover. Sorry, Mrs. Jackson. Could you drive faster, please? Grover replied. What, you mean Hades? Naruto replied, and the ground shook a bit and Grover nodded, a little panicked. While the boys were trying to wrap their heads around all this madness, Percy's mom made a hard left. They swerved onto a narrower road. Racing past darkened farmhouses and wooded hills and pick your own strawberries signs on white picket fences. Where are we going? Percy asked. The summer camp one told you about. His mother's voice was tight. She was trying for Percy's sake not to be scared. The place your father wanted to send you. The place you didn't want me to go. Please, dear, his mother begged. This is hard enough. Try to understand. You're in danger. Because some old ladies cut yarn. Percy asked and Naruto sighed. Man, if you paid attention in class, why that is bad. Naruto said. When they cut the yarn, that means someone is going to die. Exactly. Grover said. The fact they appeared in front of you too, they only do that when you're about to, when someone's about to die. Whoa, you said, you. Percy freaked. No, I didn't. I said, someone. Grover replied. No, you paused then said someone. Naruto said. Yeah, you meant me. Percy said. I meant you, like, someone. Not you, you. God. Makes sense, why don't you? Naruto replied. Boys. Percy's mom said. She pulled the wheel hard to the right, and they got a glimpse of a figure she'd swerved to avoid. A dark fluttering shape now lost behind them in the storm. The hell was that? Naruto freaked. We're almost there, Mrs. Jackson said, ignoring Naruto's question. Another mile. Please, please, please. They didn't know what there was, but it had to be safe from whatever the hell was chasing them. It is not Mrs. Dodds, that is for sure. Whatever it is, it's bigger and stronger than last time. This is reminding me of the wave mission, only we are fleeing for our lives. While Naruto was thinking that, Percy was thinking about the blades Mr. Brunner had thrown to them. Before he could ask Grover about that, the hair rose on the back of my neck. There was a blinding flash, a jaw-rattling boom, and the car exploded. It was odd feelings being blown up, like you were, weightless, crushed, burned. And being hosed down all at the same time. Though that last part may have been because of the rain. Percy pried his forehand off the driver's seat in front of him as his mom called out to him. I am fine, he said. He heard Naruto mutter out a, never been better, as they noticed the car was still intact because it was in a ditch. They sighed in relief that they were not dead, not yet anyway. While Naruto was trying to regain his bearings, Percy noticed that Grover looked unconscious. Grover. Food, he groaned. Naruto's sweat dropped at that. Yeah, he was going to be fine. Percy, his mother said, we have to. Her voice faltered, because when the lightning flashed, they saw a huge figure through the mud-splashed window. Hello. Naruto said, surprised. Boys, Percy's mother said, deadly serious. Get out of the car. She tried, the drivers said, but all the mud was blocking their way out. Passengers sighed. Get out now and run to the big tree. She yelled, pointing to a large tree in the distance as they got out. What? Percy replied, confused, until the lightning flashed and a large pine tree in the distance appeared, and that thing was huge. That's the property line, his mom said. Get over that hill and you'll see a big farmhouse down in the valley. Run and don't look back. Yell for help. Don't stop until you reach the door. Mom, you're coming too. Her face was pale. Her eyes as sad as when she looked at the ocean. No, Percy shouted. You are coming with us. Help me carry Grover. Food. Grover moaned, a little louder. Naruto growled and yelled above the rain. Give him to me. We will get there faster that way. Percy nodded and gave Grover to Naruto and turned back to Mom to see the creature coming towards them. It was huge. That and it seemed that it had fur on it. Naruto turned to look at it and yelled, Holy cow. That is not a cow and there is nothing holy about that it. Mrs. Jackson was able to shout out. Naruto looked at her with a deadpanned expression that said, duh. And looked at it again and he saw horns jutting out its head. Yeah, not a cow but a bull. Still it was not good. He doesn't want us, Mrs. Jackson called out. He just wants you too. Besides, I can't cross the property line. But, Percy and Naruto started to say. We don't have time. Go, please. This just mad Percy mad and he went over to his mother and helped tea out all the way. We're going together. Come on, Mom. Naruto just smirked at Percy's stubbornness, just like him in some aspects. I told you, Mom, I am not leaving you. Come on. They gotta pour tea on of the way but the monster was gaining on them and quick. Naruto looked at it again and his eyes widened. What the hell? Bodybuilders aren't this buff. He said, commenting on all the bulging and rippling muscles on that thing. Percy blinked owlishly, recognizing this creature from Mr. Brunner's class. That's Pasiphae's son, his mother said. I wish I'd known how badly they want to kill you. But he's the Min. Don't say his name, she warned. Names have power. Terrific, this really is like the wave mission. Naruto replied, getting odd looks as they ran. I'll tell ya later. Naruto replied as they ran. He too knew what this creature was and growled. It was a big brute called the Minotaur. It may be strong but it was dumb if the books were right. The only thing that it see. Old rely on was its sense of smell out in this weather and it was only a matter of time before it found them. As if on cue, the bullman bellowed in rage. He picked up Gabe's Camaro by the torn roof, the chassis creaking and groaning. He raised the car over his head and threw it down the road. It slammed into the wet asphalt and skidded in a shower of sparks for about half a mile before coming to a stop. The gas tank exploded. Oops, Percy said. Yeah, so much for not a scratch. Naruto laughed a little freaked out. That thing is stronger than he looks and he looked strong to begin with. Boy, Percy's mom said. When he sees us, he'll charge. Wait until the last second, then jump out of the way, directly sideways. He can't change directions very well once he's charging. Do you understand? Oh, that is useful. Naruto said. How do you know all this? Percy asked. I've been worried about an attack for a long time. I should have expected this. I was selfish, keeping you near me. Mrs. Jackson said sadly. What's done is done. Besides, you're a mom, it is natural. Naruto replied while Percy nodded to that statement. But, there was another bellow of rage, and the bullman started tromping uphill. Great. Naruto panicked. The bullman on steroids had smelled them and was charging in fast. To Naruto, everything was happening in slow motion. He readied himself for what he had to do. Gathering some chakra to his legs and tightening his hold on Goat Boy, he patiently waited for the right moment. 20 feet. 10 feet. 5 feet. He saw Mrs. Jackson roll out of the way but it seemed Percy was waiting too long. So he used his free hat and pushed him out of harm's way and jumped him into the air, onto the monster's head. The monster seemed miffed by this as it blinked in confusion until he vaguely felt Naruto slamming something onto its head. As Naruto jumped off the Minotaur heard a faint hissing and then the tag on his forehead exploded. As Naruto landed near the tree he heard something land near him. It was a broken piece of its horn. Snorting was heard behind him and saw the Minotaur still standing, one horn missing. Naruto saw that its injuries were healing at a fast rate. It turned its head towards Percy and his mother before charging. Naruto growled. He would not let his friend die. So he laid Grover down near the tree and jumped back to Percy. He landed Percy as mom got to him. They looked at him oddly again and he said, it is a ninja thing. Come on. Then they ran for their lives to the tree. Naruto wondered why Mrs. Jackson said that she was not able to get to where they were going. Reaching the hill with the tree, the boys took notice that a valley was below them and it had a farmhouse that had yellow lights glowing in the window. Scowling, Naruto growled. With the way things were going, they would never make it. Run, Percy. Naruto heard Mrs. Jackson call out. I can't go any farther. Run. They froze in shock and fear as the Minotaur came rushing up to them and she tried to get out of the way like last time but it had learned its lesson last time. It brought out an arm and caught her by the neck while she struggled to get away. Mom, Mrs. Jackson. The boys screamed. She caught Percy's eyes, managed to choke out one last word. Go. Then, with an angry roar, the monster closed his fists around his mother's neck, and she dissolved before their eyes, melting into light. A shimmering golden form, as if she were a holographic projection. A blinding flash and she was simply gone. No, Percy yelled. What the hell is going on? Naruto yelled, irritated about what was going on. Anger overcame Percy and the boys nodded. They would have to try and take this thing down like Mrs. Dodds. It caught sight of Grover and charged after him, intent to finish him off. Ah, let's make this thing into a fresh steak. Naruto yelled while Percy took off his red jacket. Hey you oversized hamburger. Your mother was an underweight milk cow. That got the beast's attention back on them. Percy flung his red jacket around like Matador would do as it charged after them. However, he could not jump out of the way like before, he imitated Naruto and jumped upward and went farther than usual somehow. Wonder how he did that as he couldn't chakra like Naruto. He turned his attention back to the bowl because it had impacted the tree, its only remaining horn stuck on it. Naruto smirked as he created a swirling ball of energy in his hands and shouted, there was a reason I never showed you this before. It pack a big punch. Rasengan. He slammed the ball into the side of the creature. It flew a few feet away at an odd angle because when it did, its other horn broke off. Percy quickly ripped it out of the ground, hoping to use it as a makeshift weapon. Naruto was about to tell him not to bother with until he saw the Minotaur getting back up. Looking in horror, they saw the huge hole in the gut of the beast but it was healing up quickly. Before they do anything however, it charged at them again. It swung at Percy and sent him a few feet away, knocking the air out of him. It did the same to Naruto but he rolled with the blow so it would not do as much damage. Jumping back at it, he activated the seal on his pants, took out a kunai, and threw it into its right eye. It screamed in rage and pain. Seeing that Percy was getting back up, he thought quickly. Normal attacks don't do a lot of damage but it does have a nasty scar from my Rasengan. Maybe it doesn't heal all the way, what if using its horns will work? He then stabbed the horn into the old wound and it twisted harshly. It cried out in agony when he did that and it seemed that it was not healing at all. He quickly jumped over it and on its back, stabbing it in the neck. Percy. Stab for the heart. The heart. He yelled out, struggling to stay on. Percy seemed to get the idea and quickly ran up to it, avoiding the massive flailing arms that were trying to get Naruto off of it. He stabbed it hard and it cried out before it burst into the same crap Mrs. Dodds did. Collapsing to his knees, he felt the rush of adrenaline wear off and the feeling of losing his mother was starting to crash down on him. Naruto picked up Percy. They supposed each other until they got to Grover. Come on, we gotta get to that house, we won't be out of the woods until we do. Naruto said as he threw Grover over his shoulder while the two demigods supported each other as the rain has suddenly stopped. When they got to the pouch, Naruto fell to his knees and it seemed that Percy was barely conscious. The weight of the two in the battle was just now getting to him. Ah, I must be weak. I have not fought in a long time. Looking up, he saw the familiar face of Mr. Brunner, who was giving them a serious look. He also a very pretty blonde-haired girl, whose hair curled like a princess's. One of them has to be it, they just have two. The girl said. Silence, Annabeth, Mr. Brunner said. They're still conscious. Bring them inside. Yes, that would be very helpful if you don't mind. Naruto replied weakly, catching them off guard. Going inside, Naruto helped the girl and Annabeth put Percy and Grover on different cots in the room. My name is Annabeth Chase by the way. The girl said with a small smile. Naruto cracked his back and said with a weak smile, Naruto Uzumaki, and if you don't mind. I would like to pass out now. Annabeth had wide eyes as she watched him put his back to the cot before falling down, out like a light. Still never ceases to amaze me. Mr. Brunner suddenly said, shaking his head, making the girl jump. Which one? All three. They protected each other in that school I went to. Naruto seems to be a natural fighter though. He replied. But considering where he's from, I am not surprised. Where? Oh, I am sure he will tell you and the rest of the camp later. Come and get me when one of them wakes. Mr. Brunner said as he left. Now Annabeth was even more curious. Scene change. Naruto woke up with a start as he bolted up in the bed he was in. That scared the crap out of Annabeth, who had just walked in. Ah, don't do that. Hey, sorry. Naruto said while scratching the back of his head. He looked at the horn he was still holding and then to Percy, who was still out of it. He brought a hand up to his chin and said, so all of that did happen. Yep, sighed Annabeth. I still can't believe you two were able to kill that monster. Naruto smirked and said, believe it. Anyway, knowing that names have power around here, I will just call it the oversized hamburger. Annabeth stared at Naruto for a long time, making him a bit uncomfortable, until she let out a laugh, which was followed by another laugh from Mr. Brunner. Good to see you again, old man. Naruto commented. Before Annabeth could correct him, Mr. Brunner chuckled and said, Naruto, here I am called Chiron. The look on Naruto was priceless. He was still smiling, but he had the, oh shit, smile. Oh, so where is your horse half? This is a magical wheelchair to when I want to go out. I use this to hide my true self. The now dubbed Chiron replied. Oh, that makes sense. So, how long was I out? You just got here last night. That is why I said you shouldn't even be up. Annabeth said. Oh, well, I have always been a really fast healer. I think it's because of the fox. So, he trailed off as he saw Annabeth gave him a look of confusion while Chiron had a serious look on his face. I take it you have no clue what I am talking about. No, the blonde girl said. I have an idea. The fox is known as the nine-tailed fox, correct? Chiron asked. Why yeah, how do you know about that in this world? Naruto asked with narrowed eyes while Annabeth looked even more confused. I hear things when I got to the annual meets of the gods. Some speak about going to a world that is home to warriors with strange powers and monsters known as the tailed bees. TS and the nine-tailed fox was the strongest of them all. They saw that it could be as strong as the typhon, Chiron explained. They even spoke of people who were forced at birth to hold these beasts in their bodies via a seal, and you were one of them. Yeah, so what of it? Naruto asked. Only a demigod can handle the power of the nine-tailed fox within their body. It is too strong to be sealed into anything else. Naruto's eyes widened and he inwardly groaned before saying, well, and here I thought I could be any more different. He then tried to get up but felt kind of weak. Great, one major fight and I am out. I need to get back in shape. He then thought back to what Chiron said. Hey, if I am a kid of a god, whose am I? We have an idea, but we must keep quiet until they claim you. Chiron stated. Why? Because only a godly parent can claim their child. To have someone else tell them is an insult to them. Annabeth answered for him. Naruto snorted. Well, we'll see how this work out. Yes, Chiron smirked. Annabeth, will you please get some ambrosia and nectar? It should help him recover faster. As she left, he noticed Naruto looking at him oddly. It is the food of the gods. Normal human can't eat it or they will die. Demigods eat it because it helps them recover and it is good for them. Ah, Naruto's smart reply was, oh, and I almost forgot. These are yours now, use it wisely. Chiron said as he took out the familiar lucky rings of his. Taking it, Naruto asked, so this actually turned into that blade I was using at the museum? Yes, and it each hold great power made for you. Oh, Naruto as he took the rings and put them on. Then Annabeth came in with the bowl of some golden liquid. Shrugging as it was better than nothing, he took a bite and tasted an all too familiar taste. Could it be? Was he right about it after all? It tastes just like Ichiraku's ramen. It has been mouths since I tasted its sweet food of the gods. He yelled out with anime tears, Acting Annabeth take a step back at his suddenly loud voice that didn't even wake up Percy. Chiron just chuckled nervously. So how do you feel? Chiron asked. Like I could fight Zabuza Momochi, of the bloody mist and come out on top. Naruto said as he got up. He noticed he still had his kunai pouch on and put the horn in it and seal it all back up, making Annabeth's eyes go wide. What the? She let out. Naruto looked at her oddly before saying, seals, very useful. Indeed. Chiron commented with a smirk. Now I will have a camper show you the cabin for later. Then you come back here. When Percy wakes up I will tell more about this as I don't want to say this twice. Fair enough. Naruto as he follows him out the door. Annabeth, please continue to watch Percy please. Chiron ordered while the girl nodded. Still wondering about those seals. Once outside, Naruto raised an eyebrow. This place was pretty big. He looked around to see that the hill with the pine tree was not far from them. He felt odd looking at it, like he was being pulled towards it. He shook the feeling off for the moment and looked ahead to see a bunch of cabins in a U-shaped arc. Chiron, not noticing Naruto's small distraction, called out to he saw a girl walking by, Clarisse. Come here please. The girl turned her head and saw Chiron and one of the new guys everyone was talking about. She smirked and walked over. Naruto noticed that she was pretty tall, strong looking, and probably a year or two older than him. She looked gruff and had the look of a fighter. What? Came her response when she arrived. I would like for you to show Naruto here around the cabins for the moment. I will probably have Annabeth show Naruto and Percy around camp later when the latter wakes up. Chiron stated. Fine, gotta welcome the newbie anyway. She said with an evil smirk. Naruto raised an eyebrow as that. He knew that smirk, he used it when he did a prank. He guessed the she was welcoming committee. Well, come on, brat, she called out. Already walking away, he followed her all the way to the middle of the arc of cabins. Okay, listen closely cause I am only going to say this once. There are 12 cabins in all. Each one represents the Greek good it was made for. Their kids are the one who live in there. Since you and the runt are new and have not been claimed yet, you two will go to cabin 11, the Hermes cabin. Naruto nodded. Hermes did shelter a lot of people, so it made sense. And the one you're in? He asked nonchalantly. The god of war's cabin. She proclaimed while pointing to a red cabin. Cool. Naruto replied. Right, now we have the other cabins. We got Demeter, Dionysus, Athena, Apollo, Aphrodite, Hephaestus, Hera, Zeus, Artemis and Poseidon. She said pointing to each. He looked at Zeus and Hera's and quirked an eyebrow. They got some pretty fancy cabins for nobody to use. Now, it is not to, officially, welcome you. Clarisse called out, making a lot of people look toward them and they grimaced. Clarisse was breaking in another newbie. Even though Naruto helped in killing the Minotaur, they felt sorry for him. She quickly reaches out and tried to grab him by the collar. Keyword here is, tried. She along with everyone else gasped as grabbed a log, stumbled, fell to one knee. What the hell? She screamed in her head. Before she could get up, she felt cold metal against her neck. She glanced to the right to see Naruto was facing the other way she was and looked at her from his side and with a smirk on his face, similar to her evil one earlier. You have slow reflexes when caught by surprise. You should work on that. Naruto said, releasing a small bit of killer intent while still smirking. They heard a lot of people asking others how he did that, and to Clarisse of all people. Some noticed that he had his kunai pouch on and that he didn't have that before. Deciding to scare them, he withdrew his kunai from her neck, put it in his pouch, and sealed it away. Earning a few gasps of shock as it just disappeared. He shocked them even more as he stepped back and offered a hand to help Clarisse up. While that was happening, Clarisse was in deep shock. The hell, I have never been bested like that. She then noticed the hand and quickly took it. She nodded her head and they walked back to the big house where Naruto came out of. Along the way, she was thinking deeply. He could be an Aries kid, if he is not I am not sure what else he could be. He beat me and could have killed me without me knowing it. What is this weird stupid feeling? Arriving at the big house, Chiron saw that Naruto looked bored and Clarisse looked a little lost. He had a feeling something went wrong with her. Welcome, plan and wait, could see that she was developing a crush for the blonde. Gods, I feel so sorry for him. At any rate, he was probably going to be hearing what happened from the other campers. Back already, I see. He started, since Percy won't be fully awake until tomorrow. I would like for you to stay near here. Alright then, I am going to take a nap next to the big pine tree. Say ya later, Chiron, Clarisse. And before Chiron could say anything, Naruto had ninja jumped up to the tree. Neither noticed that Clarisse had quickly walked away with a small pink tint to her cheeks. Naruto arrived at the tree and sat down with his back to it. This tree had been pulling at him the whole time. He idly wondered if it was cursed or something like that. Slowly falling asleep, he laid his head against the tree and was out like a light. Naruto, son of Artemis, thank yo. You and also what do you means by, Naruto says Minotaur's King Fu sucks. C0-88, thank you. Naruto found himself in a black room with red drapes. The room is illuminated by a few lamps hanging on the wall. LS and has red chair and a phonograph on a three-legged table playing music. It was a soft jazz. The record skipped every few minutes. He was not alone. A girl was in the chair across from him, staring at him with shocked eyes. She has shoulder-length spiky black hair, and blue eyes, with freckles under her eyes, mostly on the left, and she is wearing a black strapless dress, the bottom with white lace. To him she looked beautiful. Hey, who are you and where are we, as I know this can't be a dream. The girl gulped and stood up. My name is Talia, as for where we are, you are in the tree. Now hold on. All I did was fall asleep against your tree, as people call it. How did I get here? Naruto said, a bit panicked in this situation. Your guess is as good as mine. Talia shrugged. So you now know me, who are you? Oh, my name is Naruto Uzumaki and apparently I'm a half-blood. Naruto replied, calming down and walking up to her. Nice to meet you, Naruto, Talia said with a smile, holding out her hand. He smiled as he took it in his and shook it. I take it you are a half-blood too. So, whose kid are you? Talia got a deadpanned look and said, Zeus. You. The blonde raised an eyebrow but didn't know why she did seem to like that. Not a clue, same for Percy. He arrived here with me and a satyr named Grover. Grover. Yeah, you've heard of him. Naruto said as he back up from her outburst. He was the satyr who found me, Annabeth, and Luke. How are they by the way? Well, Grover is always trying to protect me and Percy, but with his facade as a cripple, it did not work that well. He and Percy are best friends. Annabeth is a nice person from what I have seen, and I have not even seen this Luke guy yet. Naruto replied with a shrug. How long have you been here anyway? I think more than 5 years. Oh wow. Well, since I have this odd power, I guess I can keep you company every now and then. Naruto said with a smile. Taliah smiled back. I would like that. It would be nice to actually talk to somebody but yourself. But if you tell the others about this, they might not believe you. I kind of figured that. Though Percy might, I showed him some unbelievable stuff. Naruto chuckled. He looked phonograph and said, though listen to that music for 5 years must be boring. Taliah had annoyed look back on her face. You have no idea. It my dad's choice anyway. I guess smooth jazz was his favorite before he stuck me here. If there were more than that record then it would be somewhat fine, but that's the only one. I lost count how many times I broke had record and how many time I smashed that phonograph, or fried them both with lightning. But they keep fixing themselves. Naruto felt pity for her. He would have gone insane if it was him. He tired to cheer her up. It could be worst. It could be disco or some music they had when the gods were in full glory. Taliah couldn't help but smile as she gave a small laugh. He did have a point, but her father could have at least made more records for her, music of her taste. Thinking of the half-blood in front of her, an idea came to her. Naruto. Yeah, I think I might know whose kid you are. What do you think? Hades. Naruto chuckled. It can't be, my mom is a goddess. That what her letter said, but it said my dad was a half-blood, so Hades might be his. Well, if that is the case, you still got a friend in me. I don't really care if our family fights with each other, which should not have anything to do with us. Taliah smiled and gave him a hug. Thank you. And, I won't hate you either. Besides, that is a stupid reason anyway. Exactly. Naruto said as then felt himself waking up. Well, till next time. Yeah, she said a little sadly. Don't worry Taliah, I'll be back. I promise, and I never go back on my promises. That's my ninja way. Taliah chuckled. I'll hold you to that, Naruto. Naruto just back up from the hug and gave her a thumbs up as he disappeared. See you later Naruto. She whispered to herself with a slight blush. Scene change. Back in the normal world, Naruto could see that it was morning. Didn't think I was in there for that long. Getting up, headed back to the big house to see Grover, Annabeth, and Chiron there around a table with 2 other people he had not met yet. Yo, they turned their heads and saw him. Well, I thought you disappeared, Chiron said, fully turning around. Oh, I just fell asleep against Taliah's tree. Naruto replied. Really? I don't remember telling you the name of the tree, Annabeth stated. Naruto smirked and said, I heard it from some campers yesterday. I am not sure if they would believe me. Anyway, I would like you to meet these 2, Chiron said. Naruto took a look at them both. One had a surfer's build, and had a lot of eyes all over his body. The other one was an old fat man. These 2 are Argus and Mr. D in that order. Naruto just nodded because Mr. D looked very tired, or was it bored? Well, I guess I must say it. Welcome to Camp Half-Blood. Nice to be here. Naruto smiled, and it was infectious because the man smiled, though it was considered a smirk. Thinking back to all the mythology he had read, he knew a lot or remember a lot of people that started with a D. So that brought out the thing he was about to say. Mr. D, I don't know a lot of Greek history, but there is one guy whose name would fit with you. But names are powerful here, so I will just say that you are the wine god. Well, you are a smart boy. You are correct, Mr. D replied, gaining some small respect for the blonde. Wow, Granny Tsunade would love you then. She drinks all the time. Have you even met her? She like 50 years old yet still looks like she's still 20. Mr. D blinked a few times before laughing. Well, I can honestly say that I have never been to your world that Chiron told me you were from. Now, I have heard about it from the other gods. Now, if I ever get away from this place, I might just take a look. Oh, and to answer your question, no, I have never met her. Although I might look her up one of these days. Oh, Naruto said and then turned to Grover. So Grover, how are you feeling? Better. But it still sucks that I was of no use. I am sure you will get another chance at that in the future. Naruto replied with a smile. Scene change. A while later, Percy had woken up and Grover took him aside to talk a bit. When they got back, that is when things got interesting. Percy looked at the end of the pouch where everyone was and gasped. The man he thought was Mr. Brunner was there. Then he saw a fat man playing some game with him. There was the blonde-haired girl who had feed him the popcorn flavor pudding, and finally there was Naruto joining the game the two men were playing. Mr. Brunner, Percy cried. The Latin teacher turned and smiled at him. His eyes had that mischievous glint they sometimes got in class when he pulled a pop quiz and made all the multiple-choice answers be. "Ah, good, Percy," he said. "Now we have 4 for Pinnacle." He offered Percy a chair to the right of Mr. D, who looked at him with bloodshot eyes and heaved a great sigh. "Oh, I suppose I must say it. Welcome to Camp Half-Blood. There. Now, don't expect me to be glad to see you." Naruto just chuckled at Mr. D's bluntness. "Ah, thanks." Percy scooted a little farther away from him because if there was one thing he had learned from living with Gabe, it was how to tell when an adult has been hitting the happy juice. If Mr. D was a stranger to alcohol, he was a satyr. "Annabeth." Mr. Brunner called to the blonde girl. She came forward and Mr. Brunner introduced them. "This young lady nursed you back to health, Percy." "Annabeth, my dear, why don't you go check on Percy's bunk? We'll be putting him, along with Naruto, in cabin 11 for now." Annabeth said, "Sure, Chiron." While looking at the girl, Percy was checking her out, but not in a perverted way. He thought that her looks were like a typical California girl, but her eyes threw him off as they were gray. He then was wondering what she would say to him because of the fact that he and Naruto killed the Minotaur. He pictured it being, "You beat the Minotaur," or, "Wow, you're so awesome." However, what she said was, "You drool when you're asleep." And with that, she left. He confused at first until he heard Naruto break out laughing. "Oh, man, I beat you." Thought she was going to say that you were awesome of something that. "Ah, sucks to be you." "Shish, shut up." Percy shot back at his friend before adding, "Wait, what about you? When did you wake up?" Neither boy saw the slight smirk on Mr. D's face. "Remember, I am a fast healer. I woke up yesterday morning." Naruto spoke while Percy just shook his head, thinking that Naruto's healing still annoying when you're the one who is hurt and he fine. "Anyway, you, work here Mr. Brunner." "Not Mr. Brunner, the ex, Mr. Brunner said. "I'm afraid that was a pseudonym. You may call me Chiron." "Okay." Totally confused, Percy looked at the director. "And Mr. D, does that stand for something?" Naruto smacked his head. He wondered if his friend had learned anything throughout this ordeal. Mr. D stopped shuffling the cards. He looked at Percy like he'd just belched loudly. "Young man, names are powerful things. You don't just go around using them for no reason." "Oh, right, sorry. I must say, Percy." Chiron broke in, "I'm glad to see you alive. It's been a long time since I've made a house call to a potential camper. I'd hate to think I've wasted my time." "House call?" "My year at Yancey Academy. To instruct you. We have satyrs at most schools, of course, keeping a lookout. But Grover alerted me as soon as he met you. He sensed you were something special, so I decided to come upstate. I convinced the other Latin teacher to, take a leave of absence. Then we had Naruto transfer in and I knew he was powerful like you as well. 2 demigods in one plaque. And Raresa, I am glad we got both you here safely." Percy tried to remember the beginning of the school year. It seemed like so long ago, but he did have a fuzzy memory of there being another Latin teacher his first week at Yancey. Then, without explanation, he had disappeared and Mr. Brunner had taken the class and then Naruto transferred in and then things were not that bad. "You came to Yancey just to teach me?" Percy asked. Chiron nodded. "Honestly, I wasn't sure about you at first. We contacted your mother, let her know we were keeping an eye on you in case you were ready for Camp Half-Blood. But you still had so much to learn. Nevertheless, you made it here alive, and that's always the first test." "Well, I had help from Naruto." Percy replied. "We know, and I am glad the both of you made it in one piece." Chiron said. "Grover," Mr. D said impatiently, "are you playing or not?" "Yes, sir." Grover trembled as he took the empty chair, though Percy couldn't figure out why he should be so afraid of a pudgy little man in a tiger print Hawaiian shirt. "You do know how to play Pinnacle?" Mr. D eyed him suspiciously. "I'm afraid not," he replied. "I'm afraid not, sir," Mr. D said. "Sir," Percy repeated. He liked the camp director less and less. "Well, Mr. D explained, it is, along with gladiator fighting and Pac-Man, one of the greatest games ever invented by humans. I would XP. Court all civilized young men to know the rules. I'm sure the boy can learn," Chiron said. "Please," Percy said, "what is this place? What am I doing here?" Mr. Brun. "Chiron, why would you go to Yancey Academy just to teach me?" Mr. D snorted. "I asked the same question. The camp director dealt the cards." Grover flinched every time one landed in his pile. Chiron smiled at the two boys sympathetically, the way he used to in Latin class. His way to let them know that no matter what their average was, they were his star students. Percy, he said. Did your mother tell you nothing? She said. He remembered her sad eyes. Looking out over the sea. She told me she was afraid to send me here, even though my father had wanted her to. She said that once I was here, I probably couldn't leave. She wanted to keep me close to her. Typical, Mr. D said. That's how they usually get killed. Young man, are you bidding or not? What? Percy asked. He explained, impatiently, how you bid in Pinnacle, and so Percy did. I'm afraid there's too much to tell, Chiron said. I'm afraid our usual orientation film won't be sufficient. Orientation film? Percy asked and then rounded on Naruto. And yo, you don't seem to be surprised by this stuff at all. Naruto shrugged and said, well, since I woke up earlier, I was told this already and I told them about the other world and they seemed to understand. Percy just blinked at him owlishly. No, Chiron decided. Well, Percy, you know your friend Grover is a satyr. You know, he pointed to the horn in the shoebox Percy was holding, that you boys have killed the Minotaur. No small feat, either, lads. What you may not know is that great powers are at work in your life. Gods, the forces you call the Greek gods, are very much alive. Percy stared at the others around the table. He waited for somebody to yell, psych. But all he got was Mr. D yelling, oh, a royal marriage. Trick, trick. He cackled as he tallied up his points and Naruto giving a serious look, and Percy knew this was serious. Mr. D, Grover asked timidly, if you're not going to eat it, could I have your Diet Coke can? Oh, alright. Yep, half goat. Might as well have a goat's stomach. Naruto deadpanned at their satyr friend while he bit a huge shard out of the empty aluminum can and chewed it mournfully. Wait, Percy told Chiron. You're telling me there's such a thing as God? Well, now, Chiron said. God, capital G, God. That's a different matter altogether. We shan't deal with the metaphysical. Metaphysical. But you were just talking about. Gods, plural, as in. Great beings that control the forces of nature and human endeavors, the immortal gods of Olympus. That's a smaller matter. Smaller. Yes, quite. The gods we discussed in Latin class. At this point Naruto intervened, seeing that his friend was having trouble coming to terms with this. Percy, remember what I said about the bloodlines back home? He got a nod. Well, think T. Had along with the Greek mythology we learned in class, and we got something very power-living. Percy's eyes widened and said, Zeus, Hera, Apollo and the others. You mean them and that they are real? That was when a thunder boomed. Young man, said Mr. D, I would really be less casual about throwing those names around, if I were you. But they're stories, Percy said. They're myths, to explain lightning and the seasons and stuff. They're what people believed before there was science. Science, Mr. D scoffed. And tell me, Perseus Jackson, he flinched when the man said Percy's real name. Which he never told anybody. What will people think of your science 2,000 years from now? Mr. D continued. They will call it primitive mumbo jumbo. That's what. Oh, I love mortals, EY have absolutely no sense of perspective. They think they've come so far. And have they, Chiron? Look at this boy and tell me. Yeah man, we didn't have that luxury back home and we just played the originators of the bloodlines to something godly. Naruto shrugged. Percy, Chiron said, you may choose to believe or not, but the fact is that immortal means immortal. Can you imagine that for a moment, never dying, never fading, existing, just as you are, for all time? That was when he heard Naruto say that it would be lonely. You mean, whether people believed in you or not, Percy said. Exactly, Chiron agreed. If you were a god, how would you like being called a myth, an old story to explain lightning? What if I told you, Perseus Jackson, that someday people would call you a myth? Just created to explain how little boys can get over losing their mothers. I wouldn't like it, but I don't believe in gods. Percy replied, which made Naruto grimace. Oh, you'd better, Mr. D murmured. Before one of them incinerates you. Grover said, please, sir. He's just lost his mother. He's in shock. A lucky thing, too, Mr. D grumbled, playing a card. Bad enough I'm confined to this job. Working with boys who don't even believe. He waved his hand and a goblet appeared on the table, as if the sunlight had bent, momentarily, and woven the air into glass. The goblet filled itself with red wine. Thunder was heard above them though there were no clouds outside. Mr. D, Chiron warned, your restrictions. Mr. D looked at the wine and feigned surprise. Dear me. He looked at the sky and yelled, "Old habits. Sorry." More thunder. Naruto chuckled and said, "Yep, Granny Tsunade would really love you." That made Mr. D chuckle and waved his hand again, and the wineglass changed into a fresh can of Diet Coke. He sighed unhappily, popped the top of the soda, and went back to his card game. Chiron winked. Mr. D offended his father a while back, took a fancy to a wood nymph whom had been declared off limits. Naruto just gave Chiron an odd look before shaking his head. If you can't have any alcohol, just go for a non-alcohol drink. It doesn't count as alcohol and as AG. OD you could make it taste just like alcohol, though you need at least 30 or more to even get slightly buzzed. Mr. D looked at Naruto as if only seeing him for the first time. A wood nymph, Percy R. Repeated, staring at the Diet Coke can like it was from outer space. Yes, Mr. D confessed. Father loves to punish me. The first time, prohibition. Ghastly. Absolutely horrid 10 years. The second time, well, she really was pretty. And I couldn't stay away. The second time, he sent me here. Half-Blood Hill. Summer camp for brats like you. Be a better influence, he told me. Work with youths rather than tearing them down. Ha. Absolutely unfair. Mr. D sounded about 6 years old, like a pouting little kid. Well, it backfired on them, they must be so jealous now. Naruto replied. Jealous? Questioned Mr. D, looking at Naruto, wondering how anything about his punishment could make the other gods jealous. Yeah, how many of the gods can say they get to see their kids every day? You get to see them grow, get stronger. See and be a part of their lives. Not many can. Mr. D was quiet, thinking of what Naruto said. It seemed to Percy that he never thought of that. Then he remembered what he was saying to Percy, "D immortals, Chiron." Mr. D said, "I thought you taught this boy the basics. My father is Zeus, of course." Like Naruto before, Percy went through the D name he had learned about and found one that matched Mr. D, though he was not as subtle like his friend. "You're Dionysus," he said. "The god of wine." Mr. D rolled his eyes. "What do they say, these days, Grover? Do the children say, well, duh." "Why yes, Mr. D. That works as well as, oh really, and, you don't say," in a sarcastic tone. "Percy, you had that coming." Naruto commented with a smirk. "Shish, shut up," Percy repeated. Then, well, duh. Percy Jackson. "Did you think I was Aphrodite, perhaps?" Mr. D asked, irritated, while Naruto thought that was an odd comparison. At least he could have made it another god. "You're a god." "Yes, child. A god. You?" Percy asked again, unable to comprehend it. Mr. D turned to look at Percy straight on, and he saw a kind of purplish fire in his eyes, a hint that this whiny, plump little man was only showing me the tiniest bit of his true nature. He saw visions of grapevines choking unbelievers to death, drunken warriors insane with battle lust, sailors screaming as their hands turned to flippers, their faces elongating into dolphin snouts. Percy knew that if he pushed him, Mr. D would show him worse things. He would plant a disease in his brain that would leave him wearing a straitjacket in a rubber room for the rest of his life. "Would you like to test me, child?" he said quietly. No, sir." The fire died a little. He turned back to his card game. "I believe I win." "Not quite, Mr. D," Chiron said. He set down a straight, tallied the points, and said, "The game goes to me." "Oh well, all I got is this," said Naruto, laying his cards down. The other two looked at his hand amazed. "Are you sure you never played before?" asked Mr. D, and Naruto nodded. Percy thought Mr. D was going to vaporize Naruto on the spot, but he just sighed through his nose, as if he were used to being beaten by someone who never played before. He got up, and Grover rose, too. "Well, if he ever becomes a god, I know what one he would be. Now I'm tired," Mr. D said. "I believe I'll take a nap before the sing-along tonight. But first, Grover, we need to talk, again, about your less than perfect performance on this assignment." Grover's face beaded with sweat. "Why yes, sir." Mr. D turned to Percy. "Cabin 11, Percy Jackson. And mind your manners. Take Naruto with you since he will be going as well." He swept into the farmhouse, Grover following miserably. "Will Grover be okay?" Percy asked Chiron. Chiron nodded, though he looked a bit troubled. "Old Dionysus isn't really mad. He just hates his job. He's been, grounded, I guess you would say, and he can't stand waiting another century before he's allowed to go back to Olympus." "Mount Olympus," Percy said. "You're telling me there really is a palace there?" "Well now, there's Mount Olympus in Greece. And then there's the home of the gods. The convergence point of their powers, which did indeed used to be on Mount Olympus. It's still called Mount Olympus, out of respect to the old ways, but the palace moves, Percy, just as the gods do. You mean the Greek gods are here? Like, in America? Well, certainly. The gods move with the heart of the West. The what? Percy. Naruto spoke up again, as Chiron already explained it to him. The West means where the major power is in the world. You see, it has moved from Greece, which was at one point, the point of power in the world. Now it is here in America. Chiron gave Naruto a grateful look because he really didn't want to explain it right now. Who are you, Chiron? Who am I? Percy asked, not really taking in everything and understanding it. Who are you? He mused while he started get out of his chair, which would seem impossible in Percy's mind. Well, that's the question we all want answered, isn't it? But for now, we should get you a bunk in cabin 11. There will be new friends to meet. And plenty of time for lessons tomorrow. Besides, there will be s'mores at the campfire tonight, and I simply adore chocolate. And then he did rise from his wheelchair. But there was something odd about the way he did it. His blanket fell away from his legs, but the legs didn't move. His waist kept getting longer, rising above his belt. At first, Percy thought he was wearing very long, white velvet underwear, but as he kept rising out of the chair, taller than any man, I realized that the velvet underwear wasn't underwear, it was the front of an animal. Muscle and sinew under coarse white fur. And the wheelchair wasn't a chair. It was some kind of container, an enormous box on wheels, and it must have been magic, because there's no way it could have held all of him. A leg came out, long and knobby-kneed, with a huge polished hoof. Then another front leg, then hindquarters, and then the box was empty, nothing but a metal shell with a couple of fake human legs attached. Percy stared at the horse who had just sprung from the wheelchair, a huge white stallion. But where its neck should be was the upper body of their Latin teacher, smoothly grafted to the horse's trunk. What a relief, the centaur said. I'd been cooped up in there so long, my fetlocks had fallen asleep. Now, come, Percy Jackson, Naruto Uzumaki. Let's meet the other campers. Percy just nodded and he and Naruto followed. Naruto leaned over and said, I told you. I told you. Shut up. Percy repeated for the third time today. After Percy got over his shock, he into Chiron's side along with Naruto and they started the tour of the camp. They passed the volleyball pit and several of the campers nudged each other. One pointed to the minotaur horn Percy was carrying. They could hear them say things like, it's them. How did that blonde guy do that thing with that log? Clarisse is going to get him back for that. Naruto chuckled as Percy gave him a look and smirked. You just had to show off. Huh, me. I have never been more insulted in all my life. Naruto said in a fake hurtful tone. As they walked that saw everyone doing activities and satyrs join. Ing them in their activities with orange camp half-blood shirts and nothing else. Hey, Percy said aloud, what is up there? He said pointing the fourth story of the big house that they just left. See. Hiron looked to where Percy was pointing and his smile faded, making Naruto raise an eyebrow, just the attic. Somebody lives there. No, he said with finality. Not a single living thing. Naruto looked at the window to the attic oddly but thought nothing of it. Come along boys, Chiron said, his light-hearted tone now a little forced. Lots to see. They walked through the strawberry fields, where campers were picking bushels of berries while a satyr played a tune on a reed pipe. I wonder how hard it is to learn how to play one or maybe a flute. Naruto idly thought, not listening to Iron tell them that these strawberries pay for the camp's expenses. Percy did look a little sad though and Naruto somehow knew that he was wondering if Grover was okay. He was getting chewed out by a god though, so it was anyone's guess. Grover won't get in too much trouble, will he? Percy asked Chiron. I mean, he was a good protector. Really? Chiron sighed. He shed his tweed jacket and draped it over his horse's back like a saddle. Grover has big dreams, Percy. Perhaps bigger than are reasonable. To reach his goal, he must first demonstrate great courage by succeeding as a keeper, finding a new camper and bringing him safely to Half-Blood Hill. But he did that, Percy exclaimed. Yeah, 2 campers nonetheless. Naruto grumbled. Now he was worried about their friend as well. There is nothing wrong with having big dreams. I'll help him out with his no matter what. I might agree with you, Chiron said. But it is not my place to judge. Dionysus and the Council of Cloven Elders must decide. I'm afraid they might not see this assignment as a success. After all, Grover lost you too in New York. Then there's the unfortunate, fate of your mother. And the fact that Grover was unconscious when Naruto brought him over the property line. The council might question whether this shows any courage on Grover's part. He helped get us here so I think that is good enough, even he is a bit weak. He is still a good guy. Naruto replied. He'll get a second chance, won't he? Percy asked. Chiron winced. I'm afraid that was Grover's second chance, Percy. The council was not anxious to give him another. Either, after what happened the first time, 5 years ago. Olympus knows, I advised him to wait longer before trying again. He's still so small for his age. 5 years. Oh, that must mean that he was with Talia since she mentioned him. Pondered Naruto. How old is he? Oh, 28. What? And he's in 6th grade. Well hey, I am 13 and I was in 6th grade too. Naruto said. Yeah, that's not as big a deal, but, 28. Percy panicked as he looked back to Chiron. Satyrs mature half as fast as humans, Percy. Grover has been the equivalent of a middle school student for the past 6 years. That's horrible, Percy said while Naruto shivered. He didn't like the idea of taking school over and over again. It would be a nightmare to him, that and no ramen. Quite, Chiron agreed. At any rate, Grover is a late bloomer, even by satyr standards, and not yet very accomplished at woodland magic. Alas, he was anxious to pursue his dream. Perhaps now he will find some other career. That's not fair, Percy said. What happened the first time? Was it really so bad? Chiron looked away quickly. Let's move along, shall we? The boys were not convinced but didn't want to anger the horseman. Chiron, Percy said, if the gods and Olympus and all that are real. Yes, child. Does that mean the underworld is real, too? Chiron's expression darkened but it was gone in a split second. Yes, child. He paused, as if choosing his words carefully. There is a place where spirits go after death. But for now, until we know more. I would urge you to put that out of your mind. What do you mean, until we know more? Come, Percy. Let's see the woods. They wanted to know what he was talking about when they reached the edge of the forest that thought left them. Once they saw it, they thought the forest was huge. It took up at least a quarter of the valley, with trees so tall and thick, you could imagine nobody had been in there since the Native Americans. Naruto smiled a sad smile and said, feels like home. Percy looked at him and put a hand on his shoulder. Naruto had told him a lot of the world he used to live in. He didn't believe it at first because it sounded weird, but so were his experiences, so he just took it in stride. Chiron said, interrupting them, the woods are stocked, if you care to try your luck, but go armed. Oh, that sounds nice. Naruto deadpanned. Sounds just like the forest of death with the way you put it. Stocked with what? Percy asked, a little freaked out now. Naruto told I am about the forest of death, and he hoped Naruto was wrong. Armed with what? You'll see. Capture the flag is Friday night. Do you have your own sword and shield? My own. We just got here, how would we have those? Deadpanned Naruto. Chiron had the decency to look sheepish. No, he said. I don't suppose you do. I think a size 5 will do. I'll visit the armory later. He then glanced at Naruto's rings. He knew Naruto would be alright, but at the moment he was more worried about Percy. Sword and spear fights? Percy asked. Cabin challenges and all that, he explained. Not lethal, usually. Oh, yes, and there's the mess hall. Chiron pointed to an outdoor pavilion framed in white Grecian columns on a hill overlooking the sea. There were a dozen stone picnic tables. No roof, no walls. Not bad. Naruto smirked as he observed it, he really wanting to eat now. What do you do when it rains? Percy asked with a confused face. Chiron looked at him as if he had gone a little weird. We still have to eat, don't we? He then sighed and decided to drop the subject. Finally, they reached the cabins that Naruto had seen earlier. The collection of 12 cabins was very odd to Percy, but Naruto didn't seem as fazed. He guessed the blonde and seen weirder things, which was very possible with all those stories Naruto had told him. Percy looked back at the building to get a better outlook at what was what. They were arranged in a U, with 2 at the base and 5 in a row on either side. Except for the fact that each had a large brass number above the door with odds on the left side, evens on the right. They looked absolutely nothing alike. Number 9 had smokestacks, like a tiny factory. Number 4 had tomato vines on the walls and a roof made out of real grass. 7 seemed to be made of solid gold, which gleamed so much in the sunlight it was almost impossible to look at. They all faced a commons area about the size of a soccer field, dotted with Greek statues, fountains, flower beds, and a couple of basketball hoops, which Percy smirked at. Now that was something he could do. In the center of the field was a huge stone-lined fire pit. Even though it was a warm afternoon, the hearth smoldered. A girl about 9 years old was tending the flames, poking the coals with a stick. Naruto found this odd, but he did feel that the girl extruded a lot of power. She was someone that you did not mess with. That was for sure. He have to remember to talk to her later. She seemed lonely to him. Percy looked to the huge mausoleum-like cabins at the bend of the U and he instantly knew who they were for. Zeus and Hera. Correct, Chiron said. Their cabins look empty. Several of the cabins are. That's true, but no one ever stays in those two. Chiron explained. What a drag. Naruto muttered Shikamaru's famous saying. Sounds like a real waste to me. He then noticed that Percy was staring at a long, low, and solid cabin that seemed to be extruding power as well. The outer walls were of rough gray stone studded with pieces of seashell and coral, as if the slabs had been hewn straight from the bottom of the ocean floor. Curious, Percy tried to take a peek inside. Chiron said, "Oh, I wouldn't do that." But Percy had already looked in and was a little sad at how sad and empty it looked inside. "Come on, Percy," Chiron said as he led them away from the cabin. Single quote. I swear this guy knows something, what a drag, ah. I am sounding more and more like Shikamaru. Next I'll be lying around all day watching the clouds and sleeping. Naruto ranted in his head. Now, most of the other cabins, however, had a lot of kids for their cabins. Naruto held in a chuckle. Man, these gods just can't seem to keep it in their pants. Number 5 was bright red, which did not have that great of a paint job. It was as if the color had been splashed on with buckets and fists. The roof was lined with barbed wire. A stuffed wild boar's head hung over the doorway, and its eyes seemed to follow all that looked at it. Inside they could see a bunch of mean-looking kids, both girls and boys, arm wrestling and arguing with each other while rock music blared. The loudest was a girl maybe 13 or 14. She wore a size XXXL Camp Half-Blood t-shirt under a camouflage jacket. She zeroed in on Percy and gave him an evil sneer. She reminded him of Nancy Bobofit, though the Camp R girl was much bigger and tougher looking, and her hair was long and stringy, and brown instead of red. Naruto smirked as he recognized her. Her cabin seemed really fun. Percy then noticed something. Hey, where are all the other centaurs? They around here? No, said Chiron sadly. My kinsmen are a wild and barbaric folk, I'm afraid. You might encounter them in the wilderness, or at major sporting events. But you won't see any here. Quote. Naruto gave the man a smirk. Oh, so they are the guys who love to party, Now they are some people I want to meet. Chiron put a smirk and said, I am not sure about that, Naruto. They take it to the extreme and they do that every day. So what you are saying is that they are the ones who invented tailgate parties and frat parties. Naruto deadpanned and Chiron just nodded. Oh boy, you said your name was Chiron. Percy interrupted, are you really? He smiled down at the boy. The Chiron from the stories. Trainer of Hercules and all that. Yes, Percy, I am. But, shouldn't you be dead? Naruto asked with a raised eyebrow. Chiron paused, as if the question intrigued him. I honestly don't know about should be. The truth is I can't be dead. You see, eons ago the gods granted my wish. I could continue the work I loved. I could be a teacher of heroes as long as humanity needed me. I gained much from that wish, and I gave up much. But I'm still here, so I can only assume I'm still needed. Being a teacher for all time, man, that sounds boring. Naruto said. No, Chiron said. Horribly depressing, at times, but never boring. Why depressing? Percy asked. I can only imagine why. Naruto said quietly, being immortal mean you see all those that you have learned to love die sooner or later. I am not sure if I could do that. Oh, look, he said. Annabeth is waiting for us. Chiron suddenly said, as if not hearing the question. When they reached the blonde girl, it was at cabin 11. The girl was reading a book that was not even in English. The thing was in Greek and it seemed to be about Greek architecture. Annabeth, Chiron said, I have master's archery class at noon. Would you take these two from here? Yes, sir. Cabin 11, Chiron told them. Gesturing toward the doorway. Make yourself at home. Out of all the cabins, 11 looked the most like a regular old summer camp cabin, with the emphasis on old. The threshold was worn down. The brown paint peeling. Over the doorway was one of those doctor's symbols, a winged pole with 2 snakes wrapped around it. Looking inside, Naruto's sweat dropped at what he saw. It was packed with people. Both boys and girls, way more than the number of bunk beds. Sleeping bags were spread all over on the floor. Oh, crud, this is worse than the orphanage back home, or maybe not. He thought as he looked at them all. They were all in good spirits. He did notice that when they saw Chiron, they stood and bowed to the man. Well, then, Chiron said. Good luck, Percy. I'll see you at dinner. He then galloped away toward the archery range. Naruto looked back at the retreating horseman with a glint in his eyes. Percy saw that and felt like he should try and get Naruto to spare him. But then again, this was Naruto. When he has a target for a prank in mind, not even a god could stop him. You have a prank in mind, don't you? Naruto just look at him, remember that 3-hour hell he put us through. Percy shivered at the memory. Turning back to the group behind them, they noticed that all the kids were sizing up the two of them. Great, now they needed to make a good impression. So naturally Percy tripped coming in the door and made a total fool of myself. There were some snickers from the campers, but none of them said anything. Naruto just walked in nonchalantly, which seemed to calm Percy down a bit. Annabeth announced, Percy Jackson, Naruto Uzumaki, meet Cabin 11. Regular or undetermined? Somebody asked. The words I'm looking for are, we just got here, recently arrived. Am unfamiliar with this place. I suppose the operative phrase you're looking for is, we're new. Naruto listed off his fingers with a deadpan look and there was a groan of annoyance from everyone in the cabin. A guy who was a little older than the rest came forward. Now, campers. That's what we're here for. Welcome, Percy, Naruto. You can have that spot on the floor, right over there. It is pretty big so the two of you will fit for now. The guy was about 19, and he looked pretty cool. He was tall and muscular, with short cropped hair and a friendly smile. He wore an orange tank top, cutoffs, sandals, and a leather necklace with 5 different colored clay beads. The only thing unsettling about his appearance was a thick white scar that ran from just beneath his right eye to his jaw. Like an old knife slash. Oh ho, now this guy seems like fighter. Naruto smirked at the thought. He knew this place was going to be fun. This is Luke, Annabeth said. And her voice sounded different somehow. They looked at her and it looked like she just got out of a blush. Naruto raised an eyebrow. It seemed that she was into old guys. He smirked, he could tease her later. His expression hardened when she them looking, but for Naruto, he already had some pranking material. He's your counselor for now. For now? Percy asked. You're undetermined, Luke explained patiently. They don't know what cabin to put you in, so you're here. Cabin 11 takes all newcomers, all visitors. Naturally, we would. Hermes, our patron, is the god of travelers. Hey, the god of thieves, now that is a guy that sounds fun. Naruto said, getting a few chuckles from the other campers. He decided to give back Luke's wallet, his pocket knife and his wristwatch so he held them out. Here. I think these are yours, man. Wah, Luke said a little surprised. How? When? Oh, just now and I am a ninja, it's just too easy for me. Naruto said, getting a few shocked looks. Anyway. Percy interrupted, already used to Naruto's antics. How long are we going to be here? Good question, Luke said as he took his stuff back. Until you're determined. How long will that take? The campers all laughed. I am getting the feeling that take a long time. Naruto's sweat dropped. What do we have to do? Prove ourselves. Fight half the camp. Come on, Annabeth told me. I'll show you the volleyball court. I've already seen it. Percy replied. Come on. She grabbed his wrist and dragged him outside. Percy could hear the kids of Cabin 11 laughing behind him. Naruto shook his head but followed them. This girl was odd but she seemed fun to him. He then chuckled to himself. Could Percy already have a girlfriend and already be whipped? Nah, he just got here after all. When we were a few feet away, Annabeth said, Jackson, you have to do better than that. What? She rolled her eyes and mumbled under her breath, I can't believe I thought you were the one. What's your problem? Naruto grimaced as he heard the anger in his friend's voice. All I know is, I kill some bull guy and that was with the help of Naruto. We just kill some odd bull freak. Don't talk like that, Annabeth told him. You know how many kids at this camp wish they'd had your chance to get killed? Percy asked with a confused look. To fight the Minotaur. What do you think we trained for? The girl yelled. Give us a break, we just got here and had no idea about this. Though you guy must train your asses off here. The Minotaur from those old stories was a pain in the ass to kill. I only weakened it with a Rasengan. Naruto complained. A what? Annabeth asked. Naruto just sighed as he created a ball of swirling energy that disappeared after a few seconds, but those watching them had seen it and wondered what it could do. Wait, Theseus killed him in the labyrinth. So, Percy trailed off. Monsters don't die, Percy. They can be killed, but they don't die. Oh, thanks. Now say that to someone who has never been here before. 'Cause the words, killed, and die, are pretty much the same, muttered Naruto. They don't have souls, like us. You can dispel them for a while. Maybe even for a whole lifetime if you're lucky. But they are primal forces. Chiron calls them archetypes. Eventually, they reform. Oh, that's nice, Naruto said as he smacked his head. You mean if we killed one, accidentally? With a sword? The fur, I mean, your math teacher. That's right, she's still out there. You just made her very, very mad. Annabeth informed him. How did you know about Mrs. Dodds? You talk in your sleep. You almost called her something. A fury. They're Hades, torturers, right? Naruto asked while Percy nodded. Annabeth glanced nervously at the ground, as if she expected it to open up and swallow her. You shouldn't call them by name, even here. We call them the kindly ones, if we have to speak of them at all. Man, you guys take fear to the extreme. Sure, she was a creepy bat. And I use that term loosely, but come on. They can't be that bad. Naruto replied. Annabeth just gave him a look. Look, is there anything we can say without it thundering? Percy whined. That even sounded sad to him. Why do I have to stay in cabin 11, anyway? Why is everybody so crowded together? There are plenty of empty bunks right over there, he said, pointing to a few other cabins. You don't just choose a cabin, Percy. It depends on who your parents are. Or, your parent. Annabeth informed him. He seemed to get it, maybe. My mom is Sally Jackson, he said. She works at the candy store in Grand Central Station. At least, she used to. Percy, I think she means your dad. Naruto commented. But he's dead. I never knew him, Percy said. Annabeth sighed. Clearly, she'd had this conversation before with other kids. Your father's not dead, Percy. I am getting the feeling that he is a god, right? Naruto deadpanned. What? Percy said, surprised. How else would you be allowed here? Naruto shrugged. What about you? Percy pointed to Naruto. Oh, I am not sure, but whoever my mom was, she said to just wait until the right time. Besides, you know that I am an orphan. So I am used to waiting around like this won't kill me. Oh, right, Percy said, a little embarrassed. But, how do I know I am a demigod as they are called? Usually demigods are diagnosed with dyslexia and probably ADHD, too. Annabeth said. Dyslexia is where you mix up word and stuff, right? Percy asked. Hey, you think you got it bad, what about me? I know 3 languages now. Naruto said. English, Japanese, and now this Greek stuff. So, you could read it at the museum as well. Yep, Naruto answered. Okay, so how does ADHD help? Simple, they are your battle reflexes. Annabeth stated. It is a good thing you had that, because if you didn't, you would not have survived the Minotaur, much less eaten the ambrosia and nectar. Huh, Percy, it's stuff you drank that made you feel better. Naruto said. For me that stuff tasted like Ichiraku's ramen. He had anime tears in his eyes, making Percy chuckle to himself. His friend had the weirdest tastes and suffering from withdrawal. My mom's cookies, Percy said sadly. Even Naruto was sad, he liked Ms. Jackson and was very nice to him, plus her cookies were the best. Well, those are the signs, you two are defiantly demigods. Annabeth said, but before she could say anything else, she was interrupted by someone very familiar to her and Naruto. Well, a newbie, a husky voice said. Percy looked over to the big girl he saw in the Ares cabin, come sauntering toward them. She had 3 other girls behind her, all big and ugly and mean looking like her, all wearing camo jackets. He noticed that she was talking to him, but also that she was stealing glances at his blonde-haired friend. Oh god no, why does he attract all the strong and mean girls? Percy remembered some of the other lies wanting a piece of Naruto back when they were at school and not in the line up to beat down way. Clarisse, Annabeth sighed, also noticing the looks. Why don't you go polish your spear or something? She then muttered, unless you want to polish someone else's spear. Shut up, princess, the big girl said, trying not to blush. I'll just run you through with it Friday night. Ares Korakas, Annabeth said, which was Greek for, go to the crows. Though the boys had a feeling it was a worse curse than it sounded. You don't stand a chance. We'll pulverize you, Clarisse said. N looked at Naruto and had a slight pink tint to her cheeks. Hey Naruto, who is the runt with you? Oh, this is my friend Percy Jackson. Yes, and I am sure Naruto already knows this, but this is Clarisse, daughter of Ares, god of war. Annabeth mumbled, finding it odd that Clarisse could well nice. The war god, Percy said with both eyebrows raised. Clarisse sneered and held up Percy by the collar. You got a problem with that? No, Percy said, recovering his wits. It explains the bad smell. Naruto smacked his head, now he gets a backbone. Clarisse growled. We got an initiation ceremony for newbies, Percy. Whatever. Come on, I'll show you. Clarisse said as he dragged the boy to the bathrooms. Clarisse, Annabeth tried to say. Stay out of it, wise girl. Clarisse rolled as she and the others walked away. Naruto. Annabeth rounded on her fellow blonde. You have to help him. Sighing, Naruto replied, I know I should, but I can't be the one to fight all his battles. He then grabbed the horn Percy dropped. They walked to the door while saying this, and he was sure Percy heard him. Let's see if he can regain some of that strength like last time. Annabeth and Naruto watched at the door as Clarisse and her friends mocked Percy. As they began to push Percy's head toward the toilet, Naruto felt that power that he felt back at the museum. "Oh, this is going to be messy." "Huh?" Annabeth asked. Then, one of the toilets shot out water at Clarisse, and as her friends tried to help her, the other toilets exploded, blasting water all over the place. Naruto grabbed bed Annabeth and jumped to the ceiling but still got wet. "Didn't see that coming," he said, shaking water out of his hair. Percy walked over to them with a shocked expression, but he was laughing in the inside at how funny the two looked. Annabeth said, "How did you?" "I don't know." Percy shrugged. "Well, Percy, you just gave the name Waterboy a whole new meaning," Naruto said, which actually got a laugh from Annabeth. Percy just told him to shut up. They walked to the door. Outside, Clarisse and her friends were sprawled in the mud, and a bunch of other campers had gathered around to gawk. Clarisse's hair was flattened across her face. Her camouflage jacket was sopping and she smelled like sewage. She gave me a look of absolute hatred. "You are dead, new boy. You are totally dead." However, it was quickly gone because Naruto had decided to help out. He created 2 shadow clones to help her cabin mates. He walked over to Clarisse and helped her up. "Don't be too hard on him next time." He smirked and then winked. He then jumped back to Percy's and Annabeth's side, leaving more shocked people to look at him. He never saw the full-blown blush on her face. "Show off." Percy smirked. "Oh, you and your hurtful words." Naruto shrugged. He then noticed Annabeth looking from Percy to Naruto. What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking," she said, "that I want the 2 of you on my team for capture the flag. If you want our help you got to get the whole cabin that goes along with us." After that little incident at the bathrooms, people were whispering about what had happened. Of course Naruto just ignored it while he was sure Percy heard it. Another odd thing was that Annabeth was still wet after what had happened, and so he helped her out by getting a large towel for her. Ey passed a rock wall that had lava spewing out of it and he smirked. Now that was a challenge he was love to try, but with his skill it might be too easy. Maybe he should add challenges to it. Naruto then swore in his head. He was now sounding like Rock Lee and his sensei. Next there was the art and crafts portion of the camp. He smirked again, thinking that he could work on some future weapons. He thought up of some different weapons he could make. He was sure Tenten pay an arm and a leg for some of thing he thought up, and from the look of it he knew he could make them. He was sure there were several campers he could find weapons that could fit for their style. First he needed to make some more weapons like those back in the ninja world. The one he has wouldn't cut it, no pun intended, against the enemies here. So, when the trio stopped at the canoeing lake that had passed earlier, Annabeth stopped and said flatly, "I've got training to do. Dinner's at 7:30. Just follow your cabin to the mess hall." "Annabeth, I'm sorry about the toilets." Percy blurted out, feeling guilty. "Whatever. It wasn't my foul," Percy said, but stopped as he too knew it was his own fault. Annabeth looked at him skeptically and Naruto just chuckled quietly to himself. Percy glared at his blonde friend for that. While Percy was an idiot around girls, he knew this and Naruto would never miss a moment to tell him so. Naruto was a clueless romantic. He could not figure it out, how Naruto could get most girls to like him, but was just as blind as a bat in the morning sun. Anyway, thinking back to the toilet water, he wondered how the hell he had done it in the first place. Needed to control it and he hoped Naruto would help him with it later. "You need to talk to the Oracle," Annabeth said. "Who?" Percy asked. "Not who. What? The Oracle. I'll ask Chiron." Percy sighed and looked down into the water, hoping someone would giving a straightforward answer for once. He didn't expect to see anyone, but his eyes widened when he did see 2 people down there. Curious, Naruto looked and saw them too. They saw 2 teenage girls sitting cross-legged at the base of the pier, about 20 feet below. They wore blue jeans and shimmering green t-shirts, and their brown hair floated loose around their shoulders as minnows darted in and out. They looked at the 2 boys and waving like they knew them. Some people are real friendly around here," Naruto commented as he and Percy waved a bit. "Don't encourage them," Annabeth warned. "Naiads are terrible flirts." "Naiads," Percy repeated, feeling completely overwhelmed. "That's it. I want to go home now." Annabeth frowned. "Don't you get it, Percy? You are home. This is the only safe place on Earth for kids like us." "You mean, mentally disturbed kids?" deadpanned Percy. "I mean not human. Not totally human, anyway. Half human. Half human and half what? I think you know," Annabeth replied. "Percy, I think she means half god. And if that is true, we are like the heroes in those stories Chiron made us read. Basically, we are going to be kick-ass fighters, real old school style." "Naruto, you already know how to fight. You are a ninja." Percy sighed. "I know. Hey, I wonder if this place has any good pranksters, Naruto thought with an evil glint in his eyes. Percy saw this and felt pity for the camp. Knowing Naruto, he'll turn the camp upside down in no time. He might even prank the whole camp at once. Annabeth sighed in defeat. By the gods, not another one. The Stroll brothers in the Hermes cabin are who you should be looking for in that area. She replied, not sure why she said that. As if it finally sunk it, Percy shouted, then my dad is alive. Yes, he is one of the Olympians. Annabeth said. That's crazy. Is it? What's the most common thing gods did in the old stories? They ran around falling in love with humans and having kids with them. Do you think they've changed their habits in the last few millennia? I would not think so, Naruto chuckled. Powerful people like them have to release somehow, if you know what I mean. Percy just smacked his head. Right, so what are we called again? Percy asked. We are demigods. Then who is your dad? Percy asked. Her hands tightened around the pier railing. He got the feeling he'd just trespassed on a sensitive subject. My dad is a professor at West Point, she said. I haven't seen him since I was very small. He teaches American history. Hey, so you got a powerful mom then? Naruto said, making Annabeth chuckle a bit at his reference to her mother. He's human, Percy stated. What? You assume it has to be a male god who finds a human female attractive. How sexist is that? Who is your mom then? Cabin 6. Meaning. Annabeth would have answered him again, but Naruto helped her out. Man, did you not pay attention while we move around here? It is Athena, the goddess of wisdom and battle. Oh, that is cool. Percy smiled. Yeah, but if you think about it, I think she likes really smart guys, so I am going to assume she likes to hang around universities or colleges that I heard about. Man, hanging around school just to meet a guy for all time. I can barely stand school now. Naruto reasoned before both boys shuddered about the school thing, making Annabeth laugh some. Okay, so who is my dad? Asked Percy. Undetermined, Annabeth said. Like I told you before. Nobody knows. Except my mother. She knew. Maybe not, Percy. Gods don't always reveal their identities. My dad would have. He loved her. Annabeth gave him a cautious look. She didn't want to burst his bubble. Maybe you're right. Maybe he'll send a sign. That's the only way to know for sure. Your father has to send you a sign claiming you as his son. Sometimes it happens. You mean sometimes it doesn't? Percy, why do you think our cabin is so overflowing? Naruto helped out. Annabeth nodded. The gods are busy. They have a lot of kids and they don't always. Well, sometimes they don't care about us, Percy. They ignore us. Hermes, I can understand, the gods must have him overworked. Apollo has to keep the sun going, other T. Hen that I don't think some of the gods should be that busy. At least not enough for them to claim their kids. So I'm stuck here, Percy said, thinking about all the sad expressions he saw at the cabin. He had seen that on some rich kids back at Yansei Academy and on Naruto some of the time. That's it. For the rest of my life. What about Naruto? He has had it worse than me. Huh, came Annabeth's response. I knew my mom. Naruto didn't know either of his parents. Percy said. Don't worry about it, Percy. I had the leader of my village back home. My dad may have been dead, but I got along pretty well. Besides, if my mom is some all-powerful goddess, then she might not have a lot of time if the other gods have work to do too. Naruto shrugged, getting a sad look from his friend and raised eyebrow from Annabeth. Besides, I turned out pretty good. Naruto smirked with giving the nice guy pose, and then swore again, muttering, curse you Lee, which made Percy smack his head. Well, it really depends. Annabeth stated. Some campers only stay the summer. If you're a child of Aphrodite or Demeter, you're probably not a real powerful force. The monsters might ignore you, so you can get by with a few months of summer training and live in the mortal world the rest of the year. But for some of us, it's too dangerous to leave. We're year-rounders. In the mortal world, we attract monsters. They sense us. They come to challenge us. Most of the time, they'll ignore us. We're old enough to cause trouble, about 10 or 11 years old, but after that, most demigods either make their way here, or they get killed off. A few manage to survive in the outside world and become famous. Believe me, if I told you the names, you'd know them. Some don't even realize they're demigods. But very, very few are like that. So monsters can't get in here? Percy asked, hoping he was safe. Annabeth shook her head. Not unless they're intentionally stalked in the woods or specially summoned by somebody on the inside. Why would anybody want to summon a monster? Practice fights. Practical jokes. Practical jokes. Hey, some people's idea of a prank, sweet. Naruto said. Of course I can summon toads. So I am familiar with summoning toads. Both Percy and Annabeth asked at the same time. Hey, you'll see later I am sure. Naruto smirked. Anyway, Annabeth said while shaking her head to get back on track. The point is the borders are sealed to keep mortals and monsters out. From the outside, mortals look into the valley and see nothing unusual, just a strawberry farm. So, you're a year-rounder? Percy asked while Naruto wondered if this place was protected by some huge genjutsu. Annabeth nodded. From under the collar of her t-shirt she pulled a leather necklace with 5 clay beads of different colors. It was just like Luke's, except Annabeth's also had a big gold ring strung on it, like a college ring. I've been here since I was 7, she said. Every August, on the last day of summer session, you get a bead for surviving another year. I've been here longer than most of the counselors, and they're all in college. Why did you come so young? She twisted the ring on her necklace. None of your business. Naruto grimaced. Thanks to Talia, he knew what happened. Oh. Percy stood there for a minute in uncomfortable silence. So, I could just walk out of here right now if I wanted to. It would be suicide, but you could, with Mr. D's or Chiron's permission, but they wouldn't give permission until the end of the summer session unless. Both boys asked, one eager to get away from this craziness while the other wanted to see more of the world and fight a ton of monsters. You were granted a quest. But that hardly ever happens. The last time, her voice trailed off. I could tell from her tone that the last time hadn't gone well. Back in the sick room, Percy said, when you were feeding me that stuff. Ambrosia. Yeah, that stuff. I only saw you feeding me so assumed Naruto was already up. Hey, knowing him, he would have bolted out the door if he had to feed me. Percy said with a chuckle while Naruto rolled his eyes before playfully kicking him. Anyway, you asked me something about the summer solstice. Annabeth's shoulders tensed. So you do know something? Well, no. Back at my old school, Naruto and I overheard Grover and Chiron talking about it. Grover mentioned the summer solstice. He said something like we didn't have much time, because of the deadline. What did that mean because we could not figure it out? She clenched her fists. I wish I knew. Chiron and the satyrs, they know, but they won't tell me. Something is wrong in Olympus, something pretty major. Last time I was there, everything seemed so normal. As normal as you can get with gods anyway. Naruto muttered. You've been to Olympus? Percy asked surprised. Some of us year-rounders, Luke and Clarisse and I and a few others, we took a field trip during winter solstice. That's when the gods have their big annual council. But, how did you get there? The Long Island Railroad, of course. You get off at Penn Station. Empire State Building. Special elevator to the 600th floor. She looked at them like she was sure they must know this already. You are a New Yorker, right? Okay, but seeing as we are new to this we don't know everything about how things are. Even true New Yorkers don't know that the Empire State Building has 600 floors. Naruto said exasperated. Right after we visited, Annabeth continued, the weather got weird. As if the gods had started fighting. A couple of times since, I've overheard satyrs talking. The best I can figure out is that something important was stolen. And if it isn't returned by summer solstice, there's going to be trouble. When you came, I was hoping. I mean, Athena can get along with just about anybody, except for Ares. And of course she's got the rivalry with Poseidon. But, I mean, aside from that, I thought we could work together. I thought you might know something. Well if we someone get a quest for this, I am sure we can all work together if that is what you are gunning for. Naruto smirked. Thanks. I need to get one. I mean I am old enough for one so yeah, Annabeth trailed off. Now I am curious as to what was stolen if it is so important that the gods are fighting over it. Naruto said in a thinking pose that did not suit him. Then they heard Percy's stomach growl. Right, well I will see you later. Annabeth said, tracing her finger along the railing of the pier. As if drawing a battle plan, though considering who her mom was, it was not surprising. Well come on, we should get back to the cabin. Naruto sighed, obviously bored now. Right, scene change. Back at cabin 11, everybody was talking and horsing around, waiting for dinner. While Naruto was walking along the walls and ceiling laughing while freaking everyone out. Percy had just noticed that a lot of the campers in the cabin had the same features, sharp noses, upturned eyebrows, mischievous smiles. They were the kind of kids that teachers would peg as troublemakers. In a sense, they were sort of like Naruto, natural-born pranksters. Only less evil in Percy's opinion. He was relieved that he was left alone for the moment as he sat down with his minotaur horn. The counselor, Luke, came over. He had the Hermes family resemblance, too. It was marred that scar on his right cheek, but his smile was intact. Found you a sleeping bag, he said. And here, I.s. Told you some toiletries from the camp store. Percy raised an eyebrow, not sure if he was tell the truth about the stealing part. Thanks. No prob. Luke sat next to him, pushed his back against the wall. Tough first day. Though, unlike you, Naruto seems to be making himself at home. Naruto is good with adjusting to weird situations, considering where he has come from. Percy chuckled sadly. Me, I don't belong here, I mean. I don't even believe in the gods. Yeah, Luke said. That's how we all started. Once you start believing in them, it doesn't get any easier. But I am curious as to where Naruto lived if he can adjust so easily. Yeah, well he says he is from a land called the Elemental Nations. At first I didn't believe him, but he did stuff no one here can even do, so I started to believe it. Percy said. Ah, I have heard of it when I overheard the gods speak of that place at the meeting me, Annabeth and a few others attended. Apparently is a very war-torn place. Of course Ares, god of war, loves that place. They have all been there a few times, and they say time works differently between the two worlds. Luke explained. Wow, who knew? I guess the gods need a break from this world sometimes. Percy chuckled and Luke laughed along with him. So, your dad is Hermes. He pulled a switchblade out of his back pocket, and for a second Percy thought he was going to gut him. But he just scraped the mud off the sole of his sandal. Yeah, Hermes. The wing-footed messenger guy. Percy asked, skeptical. That's him. Messengers. Medicine. Travelers, merchants, thieves. Anybody who uses the roads. That's why you're here, enjoying Cabin 11's hospitality. Hermes isn't picky about who he sponsors. You ever meet your dad? I asked. Once. Luke said but didn't seem to say more on that subject. So, I guess he claims all his kids. Percy said. Pretty much, but I was kind of wondering if Naruto was one of us. Apparently not, as he has not been claimed yet. Hermes has his kids claimed almost as soon as they get to camp. Luke said, amused as Naruto was doing handstands on the ceiling, teasing the others. Don't worry about it, Percy. The campers here, they're mostly good people. After all, we're extended family, right? We take care of each other. Hey, sounds like Naruto. He usually helped me and Grover this year in school. Percy chuckled. He was glad he had friend like Naruto, Grover. And now the people here at camp. He then asked something that has been bugging him. Clarisse, from Ares, was joking about me being Big 3 material. Then Annabeth, twice, she said I might be the one. She said I should talk to the oracle. What was that all about? Luke folded his knife. I hate prophecies. What do you mean? Luke's face twitched around the scar. Let's just say I messed things up for everybody else. The last 2 years, ever since my trip to the Garden of the Hesperides went sour, Chiron hasn't allowed any more quests. Annabeth's been dying to get out into the world. She'd pestered Chiron so much he finally told her he already knew her fate. He'd had a prophecy from the oracle. He wouldn't tell her the whole thing, but he said Annabeth wasn't destined to go on a quest yet. She had to wait until somebody special came to the camp. Somebody special? You mean like me, or more specifically, Naruto? I mean he is pretty special. He is stealing Spider-Man's thing after all. Percy asked. Don't worry about it, kid, Luke said with a laugh. Annabeth wants to think every new camper who comes through here is the omen she's been waiting for. Now, come on, it's dinner time. The moment he said it, a horn blew in the distance. Luke yelled, 11, fall in. The whole cabin, about 20 or so of kids, filed into the commons yard. They lined up in order of seniority. So of course Percy and Naruto were dead last, though Naruto didn't seem to mind when Percy grumbled about it. Campers came from the other cabins, too, except for the 3 empty cabins at the end and cabin 8, which had looked normal in the daytime but was now starting to glow silver as the sun went down. Naruto found this really cool. They marched up the hill to the mess hall pavilion. Satyrs joined the group from the meadow. Naiads emerged from the canoeing lake. A few other girls came out of the woods, literally. In all, there were maybe 100 campers, a few dozen satyrs, and a dozen assorted wood nymphs and naiads. At the pavilion, torches blazed around the marble columns. A central fire burned in a bronze brazier the size of a bathtub. Each cabin had its own table, covered in white cloth trimmed in purple. 4 of the tables were empty, but cabin 11's was way overcrowded. Percy had to squeeze onto the edge of a bench with half his butt hanging off. Naruto was smart and made a shadow clone and transformed into a small seat for himself, shocking a few people, who wondered how he did it. The boys saw Grover sitting at table 12 with Mr. D, a few satyrs, and a couple of plump blonde boys who looked just like Mr. D. Chiron stood to one side, the picnic table being way too small for a centaur. This made Naruto laugh some. Annabeth. sat at table 6 with a bunch of serious-looking athletic kids, all with her gray eyes and honey blonde hair. Clarisse sat behind them at Ares's table. She'd apparently gotten over being hosed down and then blow-dried, because she was laughing and belching right alongside her friends. Finally, Chiron pounded his hoof against the marble floor of the pavilion, and everybody fell silent. He raised a glass. To the gods. Everybody else raised their glasses. To the gods. Naruto, being Naruto, cheered loudly along with the rest of them while Percy did it weakly, still trying to get used to this madness. Wood nymphs came forward with platters of food: grapes, apples, strawberries, cheese, fresh bread, and yes, barbecue. Naruto and Percy's glasses was empty, but Luke said, "Speak to it." "Whatever you want, non-alcoholic, of course." While Percy experimented with his blue cherry Coke, Naruto asked, "Orange soda?" That made Percy laugh hard. No matter what he and Grover did, they could never get the blonde away from the color orange. Then some food was passed to the two boys. "Come on," Luke called. They followed him to the bathtub-size fire and saw people throwing in a good portion of their food in it. "Burnt offerings for the gods. They like the smell," he murmured. The boys gave Luke a deadpan look. "You're kidding." Luke's look warned them not to take this lightly, but they couldn't help wondering why an immortal, all-powerful being would like the smell of burning food. But whatever floats their boat, right? Luke approached the fire, bowed his head, and tossed in a cluster of fat red grapes. "Hermes." While Percy made a silent plea to whoever was listening, he threw it in there and not much happened except for an odd smell of chocolate and fresh-baked brownies, hamburgers on the grill and wildflowers. And 100 other good things that shouldn't have gone well together, but did. Percy looked oddly at it before letting Naruto have his turn. Naruto threw a piece in the before the familiar smell of Ichiraku's ramen stand filled their air before it turned to the smell of Tsunade's sake. Then something weird happened. The fire turned pure gold and sliver for a few seconds before turning back. Naruto looked back to see that Percy and a lot of other people had seen it too. They all had their eyebrows raised high. Naruto and Percy quickly went back to the table before anyone asked any questions. After that, they ate quickly, with Naruto finding his favorite food on the table, ramen. Of course it was only in one bowl, but he did not mind. The odd thing was that when he finished it, it came back. Oh yeah, this was a good thing, never-ending ramen. He made a note to send a couple bowls to the gods, he knew they would like it. When everybody had returned to the IR seats and finished eating their meals, Chiron pounded his hoof again for their attention. Mr. D got up with a huge sigh. "Yes, I suppose I'd better say hello to all you brats." "Well, hello. Our activities director, Chiron, says the next capture the flag is Friday. Cabin 5 presently holds the laurels." A bunch of cheering rose from the Ares table. "Personally, Mr. D continued, I couldn't care less, but congratulations. Also, I should tell you that we have 2 new campers today. Peter Johnson and Naru Uzumi. It's Naruto Uzumaki. Not a girl's name." Naruto barked out, but Mr. D just smirked. He may like this kid and found him funny, which is saying something as he is hard to please, but it was more fun messing with him than seeing him mess with everyone else. There was also laughter from the Ares table, though it was more for the fact that a camper had yelled at Mr. D. Then Chiron muttered something. Percy Jackson, Mr. D corrected. "That's right. Hurrah, and all that. Now run along to your silly campfire. Go on." Everybody cheered. They all headed down toward the amphitheater, where Apollo's cabin led a sing-along. They sang camp songs about the gods and ate s'mores and joked around. This made Percy feel more at him and not uncomfortable anymore. He even laughed when Naruto sang loudly and started of a song he knew. Then, Naruto smirked and started of a new song that he heard when listening to the radio once. "Here, let's try this summer song," the blonde said as he took out a guitar from out of nowhere. While everyone wondered what song he will do, Naruto started playing. The next few days were really weird, but it soon became routine and that in fact mythical creatures were teaching Naruto was not bothering him. It might have bothered his friend Percy, but that was just Percy. Although he did have his revenge against Chiron, the memory still brought a smile to his face. Flashback. The first morning of training at breakfast, Chiron slowly and gloomily trotted to his table. All noise stopped as they watched him. His once white horse body was now bright pink with small hearts, rainbows and other thing the girls of Aphrodite cabin love. On his right hind leg was the words, "My Little Pony," in bright blue. Even the shirt was dyed pink and other extreme girly things on it. As he passed the Hermes table he stopped and asked, was this really necessarily Naruto? That broke the dam as everyone from Hermes to Ares to Athena broke out laughing. Even Mr. Dee was giving a full belly laugh at this and quickly took a few pictures. Naruto just smiled and said to him, "Yes it was. That was for the 3-hour outrageous hell you put our class through. It was even worse for Percy and me with everything swimming before our eyes. Don't worry, it'll come out in a few days." Flashback ends. Each morning, they would go to a class called Ancient Greek, where they pretty much learned the Greek language from Annabeth. Now, thanks to their Greek heritage, they were able to understand it. But it was a little hard for Naruto because he confused English, Japanese, and Greek with each other some of the time. Then, after that and breakfast, they would participate in outdoor activities. This is where the boys separated for a bit to see what they were good at. Naruto went along with the schedule to see what was there and some really fun things. The first one was SW. Sword and Shield class, and it was taught by Clarisse. She took this well and decided to prove herself against the blonde-haired warrior. Naruto, being himself, didn't pick any of the blades that were provided for him. He used the blade he was giving to by Chiron. When Naruto started archery class, he surprised the whole class. Flashback. Alright, Naruto, started Chiron after showing him and Percy how to use the bow and arrow. Aim for any of the targets and try to hit the ring. Naruto just shrugged before fitting the bow and aimed for one of the farther targets. What he didn't know is that the Saint Roll brothers were planning on getting Naruto back for the prank he got them with. They still had no idea how he got them walking to breakfast wearing Lee's outfit. It caused the Aphrodite kids all inted in shock and fright of the outfit, and even Mr. D was laughing. They plan on having Naruto make a fool of himself in front of the Aphrodite girls, who were watching along with Clarisse. They had a long wooden pole, and as Naruto was about to fire his first arrow, they slammed the pole to the bottom of the bow, causing the arrow to shoot skyward. Before Chiron could tell Naruto to try again, he grabbed another arrow, fitted it, and shot it at the first arrow all in 3 seconds. It nicked the end, causing the first to spiral downward before hitting the farthest target in the center ring. Everyone, but Naruto's, jaw dropped. Even Chiron's. Flashback ends. The next thing he tried was wing horseback riding. At first, the horses were hyper around him for some reason. But one did come up to him, and it was a pure silver one. That had been shocking because that one did not trust a lot of boys, only girls. Even then, it took several meetings to do that. So, after their lunch, they all practiced aerial combat. At first, Naruto had been air sick, but quickly got over that. Just like last time, he had no clue how to fight in the air, so he improvised again, scaring the Demeter cabin when he D jumped off his Pegasus and kicked his opponent from the Ares cabin in the head to knock him away. The part that scared them, however, was that he was then free falling to the ground. Luckily, the Pegasus caught him. He got slapped a few times from the girls for scaring them, but overall everyone was impressed. Then had a class on monster assaulting, and he made that even more fun than what the Hermes cabin was doing. He blasted some of the monsters stalked in the woods with his clone and attacks so that the other campers could get a good strike in before it regained its bearings. Even when he wasn't doing that, there was not a monster he could not find and hunt. Percy joked, saying he was a Greek version of the Predator. Naruto added to the joke, saying he should make trophies out of any monster he fought. Like the Minotaur horn he had acquired. He even said if he could find a way to keep the skulls of the monsters. After that, he had a choice on what he could do. So for the next 3 days, he tried something new each time. In arts and crafts, he and the Hephaestus cabin had created ninja tools with celestial bronze, and even helped make designs for new crazy weapons for different campers. For the head counselor of Hephaestus, Charles Beckendorf, a shoulder cannon like that in Predator that shot Greek fire. Percy gave him the idea. Charles was all for it and could not wait to help make it and try it out. Oh yeah, he could defiantly work with the Hephaestus kids anytime. Another day, he tried canoe racing. And that went as well as most of his day at the academy. After 5 minutes of paddling in circles, he lost his temper and jumped out of the boat, lifted it and water walked all the way to the finish line. Of course Percy was in the class and beat him, but he was second, street. It was funny to see their, what the hell, faces at how he could walk on the water. With the wall climbing thing, he got bored of that real quick, as all he had to do was walk up it and he was done. A few times he literally ran circles around the satyrs just for fun, in a challenge that of course scared the hooves off them, which he found funny. Then he had some fun in the sun on the nearby beach. That was some good relaxing time. But Naruto was never alone, as he was oblivious to all the girls ogling him, mostly Clarisse and the Aphrodite cabin girls, with a few girls for Demeter, Hermes and Apollo cabins. For most of his free time, Naruto would either talk to Talia in her tree or hand out with Percy, Annabeth, and Grover. During that time, Percy told them about his sword fight with their cabin leader, Luke. That was fun to hear about, but they had also heard about his spars with Clarisse and wanted to know more on what happened. Talia was very interested in knowing what he did, and that was to be expected from someone stuck in a tree. The day before Capture the Flag, Naruto told her all about his world and she was skeptical at first, but she soon believed him when he was able to do a jutsu in the tree. She then told him about her journey to Camp Half-Blood with Luke, Annabeth, and Grover. That was a really interesting tale. Before he left that night, he told her he would find a way to help her out of the tree, and that was a promise. She just smiled and hugged him, hoping that he would be able to save her from this nightmare. Right now Naruto, Percy, and Grover were at the pier. Naruto was watching the clouds while the other two were staring into the water. Naruto could tell that Percy had barely survived the rock wall because he smelled all burnt and toasty. When he heard Grover saying something about a searcher's license, he asked, "Okay, for those who are new to the whole half-blood thing, what is that?" "Oh." Grover jumped, forgetting that his other friend was there. "It will let me search for Pan, God of the Wild." "Huh, so you got it?" the blonde asked. Grover looked down at the naiads in the water. "Mr. D suspended judgment. He said I hadn't failed or succeeded with you two yet. So our fates were still tied together. If you got a quest and I went along to protect you, and we all came back alive, then maybe he'd consider the job complete." "Well, that's not so bad, right?" Percy asked. "Blah ha ha. He might as well have transferred me to stable cleaning duty. The chances of you getting a quest, and even if you did, why would you want me along?" "Of course we would want you along," Percy said, surprised at his friend's reaction. Naruto bopped his goat-like friend on the head. "Don't be so gloomy. You are our friend." Grover stared glumly into the water. "Basket weaving. Must be nice to have a useful skill." Naruto and Percy tried to reassure him that he had lots of talents, but that just made him look more miserable. They talked about canoeing and swordplay for a while, with Naruto being better at swordplay than at canoeing. That made Percy laugh at the memory of his friend going in circles. Then they debated the pros and cons of the different gods. Naruto said that if one had the Lord of the Dead on your side, you would not have to worry about monsters going after you. Finally, Percy asked Grover about the 4 empty cabins. "Number 8, the silver one, belongs to Artemis," he said. "She vowed to be a maiden forever. So of course, no kids. The cabin is, you know, honorary. If she didn't have one, she'd be mad." "Understandable, but come on. Having no kids of your own. Doesn't that get lonely after for so long? Not having someone to watch over, teacher be proud of." Naruto commented. "Well, she is head of the hunters, so she has kids, but they are not her own." Grover said. Claiming unclaimed kids, nice." Naruto said, approving of the idea. "But they are only girls." Grover replied. Naruto thought about it and thought that was kind of sexist to him. Thinking of some women in his world that he thought might join. He then shivered. If Anko was there, things would be crazy, and painful, defiantly painful. "Yeah, okay. But the other 3, the ones at the end, are those the big 3? Asked Percy. Grover tensed. The 2 boys guessed they were getting close to a touchy subject. "No. One of them, number 2, is Hera's," he said. "That's another honorary thing. She's the goddess of marriage, so of course she wouldn't go around having affairs with mortals. That's her husband's job. He didn't see the, told you. Look," Naruto gave Percy. "When we say the big 3, we mean the 3 powerful brothers, the sons of Kronos. Zeus, Poseidon, Hades." Percy stated. "Right. You know. After the great battle with the Titans, they took over the world from their dad and drew lots to decide who got what. Zeus got the sky," Naruto stated. "Poseidon the sea, Hades the underworld." "Uh-huh," Grover said. "But Hades doesn't have a cabin here." Surprisingly, Percy said this. "No, he doesn't have a throne on Olympus, either. He sort of does his own thing down in the underworld. If he did have a cabin here." Grover shuddered. "Well, it wouldn't be pleasant. Let's leave it at that. He can't be that bad." Naruto rolled his eyes. "He is kind of creepy," Grover stated. "But Zeus and Poseidon, they both had, like, a bazillion kids in the myths. Why are their cabins empty?" Percy asked. Grover shifted his hooves uncomfortably. "About 60 years ago, after World War II, the big 3 agreed they wouldn't sire any more heroes. Their children were just too powerful. They were affecting the course of human events too much, causing too much carnage. World War II, you know, that was basically a fight between the sons of Zeus and Poseidon on one side, and the sons of Hades on the other. The winning side, Zeus and Poseidon, made Hades swear an oath with them, no more affairs with mortal women. They all swore on the river Styx. Well, that is interesting. A world war caused by your kids. I think they made a good choice, except one thing bugs me. Naruto said. What? Percy asked. They are immortal. They are going to break that oath one day. Because nobody can give up their lifestyle. Wow, I don't think they even thought about that. Grover said with wide eyes. But they have kept that oath, right? Percy asked. Grover's face darkened. 17 years ago, Zeus fell off the wagon. There was this TV starlet with a big fluffy 80s hairdo, he just couldn't help himself. When their child was born, a little girl named Talia, well. The river Styx is serious about promises. Zeus himself got off because he's immortal, but he brought a terrible fate on his daughter. Naruto's face darkened. Yeah, duh. Our old dad could not protect his daughter from all the way up there and let her be turned into a tree right before she died. But that isn't fair. It wasn't the little girl's fault. Percy said and Naruto nodded. Grover hesitated. Percy, children of the big three have powers greater than other half-bloods. They have a strong aura, a scent that attracts monsters. When Hades found out about the girl, he wasn't too happy about Zeus breaking his oath. Hades let the worst monsters out of Tartarus to torment Talia. A satyr was assigned to be her keeper when she was 12, but there was nothing he could do. He tried to escort her here with a couple of other half-bloods she'd befriended. They almost made it. They got all the way to the top of that hill. He pointed across the valley, to the Pi-Ne tree where they had fought the Minotaur. All three kindly ones were after them, along with a horde of hellhounds. They were about to be overrun when Talia told her satyr to take the other two half-bloods to safety while she held off the monsters. She was wounded and tired, and she didn't want to live like a hunted animal. The satyr didn't want to leave her, but he couldn't change her mind, and he had to protect the others. So Talia made her final stand alone, at the top of that hill. As she died, Zeus took pity on her. He turned her into that pine tree. Her spirit still helps protect the borders of the valley. That's why the hill is called Half-Blood Hill. Percy stared at the pine in the distance and he noticed that Naruto was clenching his fists. The story made him feel hollow. IRL his age had sacrificed herself to save her friends. She had faced a whole army of monsters. Next to that, their victory over the Minotaur didn't seem like much. He wondered if he'd acted differently, could he have saved his mother? Grover, Percy said, did heroes really gone on quests to the underworld? Sometimes, he said. Orpheus, Hercules, Houdini, and have they ever returned somebody from the dead? No, never. Orpheus came close. Percy, you're not seriously thinking. No, he lied. I was just wondering. So, a satyr is always assigned to guard a demigod. Before Grover could answer, Naruto piped in. Percy, I know how you feel, but you can't really revive someone that is dead. I know a ninja that did and he was truly a madman. What do you mean, I know how you feel? Percy asked. I have wanted to revive my parents for a long time, but when I heard what Orochimaru had done, I took back my idea of doing that. What did he do? Grover asked, now curious. When he was fighting his old teacher, Old Man Hokage, he summoned the long-dead first and second Hokage by sacrificing the bodies of his students. You see, to revive someone, you have to kill someone in return. Naruto explained and he saw horrified looks on his two friends. So please, don't even try it. I won't, Percy said, shaky because of that story. Grover decided to change the subject by answering Percy's question. We are not always assigned that way. We go undercover to a lot of schools. We try to sniff out the half-bloods who have the makings of great heroes. If we find one with a very strong aura, like a child of the big three, we alert Chiron. He tries to keep an eye on them, since they could cause really huge problems. And you found me and then Naruto. Chiron said you thought me and Naruto might be something special. Grover looked as if Percy had just led him into a trap, and Naruto smirked. Grover had been caught. I didn't. Oh, listen, don't think like that. If you were, you know, you'd never ever be allowed a quest. And I'd never get my license. You're probably a child of Hermes. Or maybe even one of the minor gods, like Nemesis, the goddess of revenge. Don't worry, okay. Really Grover, Nemesis. Percy is not that vengeful, now Sasuke might be and if he is, I would not be surprised. Naruto said, while the other two shudder, they knew about Sasuke and his obsession with power and revenge. What about me? You seem to be good at making stuff, so would say you were related to the smith god. You have a point. Naruto said thoughtfully. Hey, or the goddess of love. Percy said with a smirk. But Naruto just looked at him confused. Is he that clueless? Scene change. At last, it was time for capture the flag. When the plates were cleared away, the conch horn sounded and we all stood at our tables. Campers yelled and cheered as Annabeth and two of her siblings ran into the pavilion carrying a silk banner. It was about 10 feet long, glistening gray. with a painting of a barn owl above an olive tree. From the opposite side of the pavilion, Clarisse and her buddies ran in with another banner of identical size but gaudy red, painted with a bloody spear and a boar's head. "Ah, so those must be the flags," Naruto stated. "Yeah," he heard Luke say. "Ares and Athena always lead the teams." Percy asked. "Not always," Luke said. "But often. So, if another cabin captures one, what do you do, repaint the flag?" Percy asked. Luke grinned. "You'll see. First we have to get one." "Whose side are we on?" Naruto asked. Luke gave them a sly look that combined with his scar made him look evil in the torchlight. "We've made a temporary alliance with Athena. Tonight, we get the flag from Ares. And the two of you are going to help." The teams were announced. Athena had made an alliance with Apollo and Hermes, the two biggest cabins. Apparently, privileges had been traded, shower times, chore schedules, the best slots for activities, in order to win support. Ares had allied themselves with everybody else: Dionysus, Demeter, Aphrodite, and Hephaestus. From what Naruto seen, Dionysus's kids were actually good athletes, but there were only two of them. Demeter's kids had the edge with nature skills and outdoor stuff, but they weren't very aggressive. Aphrodite's sons and daughters they weren't too worried about. They mostly sat out every activity and checked their reflections in the lake and did their hair and gossiped. Hephaestus's kids weren't pretty and there were only 4 of them, but they were big and burly from working in the metal shop all day. They might be a problem. That of course, left Ares's cabin, a dozen of the biggest, ugliest, meanest kids on Long Island, or anywhere else on the planet. All in all, Naruto thought he was have some real fun today. Chiron hammered his hoof on the marble. "Heroes," he announced. "You know the rules. The creek is the boundary line. The entire forest is fair game. All magic items are allowed. The banner must be prominently displayed, and have no more than 2 guards. Prisoners may be disarmed, but may not be bound or gagged. No killing or maiming is allowed. I will serve as referee and battlefield medic. Arm yourselves." He spread his hands, and the tables were suddenly covered with equipment: helmets, bronze swords, spears, ox-hide shields coated in metal. "Whoa," Percy said in surprise. "We're really supposed to use these?" Luke looked at him as if Percy had gone crazy. "Unless you want to get skewered by your friends in cabin 5. Here, Chiron thought these would fit. You'll be on border patrol." While Luke was fitting Percy with Greek armor, Naruto was chuckling to himself. "Man, this reminds of the Chunin exams, I just hope nothing bad happens." He then took out a scroll. And out popped a set of Anbu gear that he got himself before his mission to get Sasuke, but was unable to put it on. People looked at him oddly before shrugging it off, already used to Naruto oddities. "Okay, I got to ask. Where did you get those?" Percy asked. "I stole them before I left home. I couldn't use them on the mission before I got here cause I would have gotten busted." "Okay then, you might be Hermes' kid now." Percy deadpanned while Luke smirked. Naruto decided to humor them by putting on a Greek helmet with the blue fur on top because blue was for Athena's side. Annabeth yelled, "Blue team, forward." The group cheered and shook their swords and followed her down the path to the south woods. The red team yelled taunts at them as they headed off toward the north. Percy though whined why his blonde friend did not take out his weapon, not that he knew that Naruto was armed with so many weapons those of Ares' cabin would be envy of him. Percy made his way to the Annabeth without tripping all over his armor and said, "Hey." Though she just kept on marching. "So what's the plan?" he asked. "Got any magic items you can loan me?" Naruto noticed that her hand was hovering over her pocket when his friend asked that. Quirking an eyebrow, he decided to get in more to eavesdrop. "Just watch Clarisse's spear," she said. "You don't want that thing touching you. Otherwise, don't worry. We'll take the banner from Ares. Has Luke given you your job?" "Nice to know," Naruto's voice said from above them. They knew he was probably tree-hopping, so they were not worried. "Border patrol, same as Naruto, whatever that means. It's easy. Stand by the creek, keep the Reds away. Leave the rest to me. Athena always has a plan," she said as he pushed ahead, leaving him in the dust. "Okay," Percy mumbled. "Glad you wanted me on your team." Naruto jumped down next to him, scaring him and a few others. "Don't worry about it, patrol is an important task as well. Besides, if you are lucky, you might be able to fight." "Gee thanks." Percy rolled his eyes. As Naruto jumped farther ahead he heard Annabeth ask, "You sure he isn't related to Ares?" Scene change. Day had turned to night by. Now as Naruto and Percy were stationed next to a little creek that gurgled over some rocks, then she and the rest of the team scattered into the trees. The two stood there for a little bit and groaned. "I get it. Border patrol is out of the way, so newbies like us won't their way." Naruto growled. He needed to do something. Smirking, he got an idea. He performed his favorite jutsu just as a horn so wounded, and they heard whoops from enemy territory. While he left a shadow clone to watch over Percy, he went into the forest to have some fun with some fellow campers. Soon he came upon a few Demeter and Aphrodite kids and smirked. He made a hand sign as he jumped down behind them. He then made a grunt and they looked over to him and their eyes widened in fear. For what they saw was the Minotaur. A armored head to hooves and carried a large battle axe. He advanced on them, causing them to scream and run. Oh yeah, that was fun. He then got the memories of the clone he left with Percy. It dispelled itself right as Clarisse attacked Percy. Wow, she really must be gunning for him. He wondered aloud as he jumped to where Percy was, only behind a tree so he could surprise them. Landing on a tree branch, he watched as Percy did his best against Clarisse and her friends. Ah, so her spear has lightning fused with it, ouch. Give him a haircut, Clarisse said. Grab his hair. Percy managed to get to his feet. He raised his sword, but Clarisse slammed it aside with her spear as sparks flew. Now both of his arms felt numb. Oh, wow, Clarisse said. I'm scared of this guy. Really scared. The flag is that way, Percy told her. He meant to sound angry, but Naruto and the others heard it differently. If the situation was different, the blonde would have laughed. Yeah, one of her siblings said. But see, we don't care about the flag. We care about a guy who made our cabin look stupid. You do that without my help, Percy growled out, and he instantly regretted it because it was probab. The dumbest thing to say at the moment. Two of them came at Percy. He backed up toward the creek, tried to raise his shield, but Clarisse too fast. Her spear stuck his straight in the ribs. If he hadn't been wearing an armored breastplate, he would have been shish kebab. It still hurt like hell because the point got through and shocked him. One of her cabin mates slashed his sword across his arm, leaving a good-sized cut. No maiming, Percy got out, feeling dizzy. Now Naruto had enough, so he decided to even the odds a little. He bit his thumb. Oops, the guy said. Guess I lost my dessert privilege. They then pushed Percy into the lake, which was a mistake for them. Summoning jutsu. Bring down the house. Bring down the what? Ah, one of the Ares kids yelled. A large orange toad, wearing a blue vest, landed right on top of the kid, pinning him down. The toad looked confused before Naruto jumped down and landed on the toad's head. The toads looked up and was shocked. Naruto, is that you? It's me, Gamakichi. Naruto raised a brow. Wow buddy, you got big. But less chit-chat, more combat. Where the hell were you? He heard Percy, who looked all healed up now, scaring off their reinforcements. Naruto said with a dumb grin. Damn it. One the Ares kid said. Get the frog. Who are you calling a frog? Then Gamakichi swelled his cheeks and spat out a stream of water that ent the loudmouth camper into the forest and out of sight. Two Ares kids rushed Percy and he swung away their blades before he punched one in the gut and then kicked the other in the face. He was so glad Naruto taught him how to fight better. Naruto jumped off Gamakichi and got his blades ready. The other Ares kids rushed Naruto, who just smirked as he blocked the first two sword strikes before he jumped higher than one of the Ares kid. Naruto then placed his foot on the back of that kid's helmeted head and kick off, sending that kid to the ground. Naruto used the momentum to launch a kick at the other Ares camper. He raised a shield and blocked Naruto kick. He was forced back, sliding while Naruto landed nicely. Naruto suddenly launched a single maul kick that caught the other Ares camper had recovered and tried to attack from behind. The kid was sent into the air and came down hard. Naruto sidestepped a thrust from the other camper's spear and Naruto pivoted around and slammed his elbow right into the Ares kid's elbow. He screamed in pain and was forced to drop his spear. He was then punched in the face, was knocked out. Naruto looked back at Clarisse and gave her a "come on" gesture with one of his hands, sword still in it. Not wanted to miss out on a new battle, she charged the blonde ninja. Clarisse attacked with her spear, the sparks forming from her lightning tip. The spear made it mark only for Naruto to poof into smoke to be replaced with a now partly smoking log. Her eye went wide and Percy, using her distraction, and came up and sliced the blade of the spear off. She looked back at Percy to a sword in her face and a kunai at her neck, again. It was just like last time with Naruto. Better luck next time, warrior princess. Naruto said into her ear, making her blush again. Then they heard yelling, elated screams, and they saw Luke racing toward the boundary line with the red team's banner lifted high. He was flanked by a couple of Hermes guys covering his retreat, and a few Apollo kids behind them, fighting off the Hephaestus kids. The Ares folks got up, and Clarisse muttered a dazed curse. A trick, she shouted. It was a trick. They staggered after Luke, but it was too late. Everybody converged on the creek as Luke ran across into friendly territory. The blue side exploded into cheers. The red banner shimmered and turned to silver. The boar and spear were replaced with a huge caduceus, the symbol of Cabin 11. Everybody on the blue team picked up Luke and started carrying him around on their shoulders. Chiron cantered out from the woods and blew the conch horn. The game was over. They had won. The boys were about to join the celebration when Annabeth's voice, right next to them in the creek, said, "Not bad, hero, you too, Mr. Ninja." Percy looked around but should not see her. She took off the cap she was wearing and said, "Where the heck did you learn to fight like that?" Percy was at first shocked before he pointed to Naruto, who just grinned cheekily. "You set us up. You put us here because you knew Clarisse would come after me, while you sent Luke around the flank. You had it all figured out." Annabeth shrugged. "I told you. Athena always has a plan. A plan to get me pulverized. I came as fast as I could. I was about to jump in, but..." She shrugged. "You didn't need help. Naruto came in pretty quick with that huge toad. So that is what you meant back then." Quote. Annabeth then looked at Percy's arm. "How did you do that?" "Sword cut," Percy said. "What do you think?" "No. It was a sword cut. Look at it." "Well, will you look at that?" Naruto commented as they saw that it was healed up. I don't get it," Percy said, shocked. The blood was gone. Where the huge cut had been, there was a long white scratch, and even that was fading. It turned into a small scar, and disappeared. Annabeth was thinking hard. She looked down at his feet, then at Clarisse's broken spear, and said, "Step out of the water, Percy." "What? Just do it." Sighing, he got out and looked bone dry. He also looked to have the adrenaline rush gone that he had when fighting. So he fell, but Annabeth and Naruto quickly supported him. "Oh, sticks," she cursed. "This is not good. I didn't want. I assumed it would be Zeus." Naruto looked at her oddly before he got it as well, but he did not have much time to voice his thoughts because he heard a growl before a loud howl ripped through the forest. The campers, cheering, died instantly. Chiron shouted something in ancient Greek, which Naruto and Percy somehow knew it was, "Stand ready. My bow." Annabeth drew her dagger. There on the rocks just above them was a black hound the size of a rhino, with lava-red eyes and fangs like daggers, and it was looking straight at Percy. Annabeth told him to run, but he was frozen in fear at this beast, so she stood in front of him. That didn't do much because it simply jumped over her and landed right in front of Percy. He fell on his armored butt as it slashed at him and snarled, showing its many teeth to the young boy. By this point, Naruto stepped in, Rasengan. He drove the large ball of swirl energy into the stomach, making it cry out in agonizing pain before he sent the beast flying into a large rock. Jumping away, he cursed as he saw the wound on the beast, healing up, just like with the Minotaur. Screw this. He grabbed his bows and fitted 2 arrows onto it. The hellhound was back on its feet and faced Naruto, only to cry in pain again. Naruto's arrows hit each of its eye before another was set down its throat. It fell dead. "Whoa," said one of the younger Ares campers. There was a murmuring of whispers on how the heck Naruto had done that. Chiron trotted up next Percy and Naruto as the giant toad hopped over to his buddy, Nice shot Naruto. "Who knew you had good aim?" "The immortals," Annabeth said. "That's a hellhound from the fields of punishment. They're not supposed to." "Someone summoned it," Chiron said. "Someone inside the camp." Quote. Luke came over, the banner in his hand forgotten, his moment of glory gone. Clarisse yelled, "It's all Percy's fault. Percy summoned it." "Be quiet, child," Chiron told her. They watched as what remained of the body of the hellhound melt into shadow, soaking into the ground until it disappeared. "You're wounded," Annabeth told Percy. "Quick, Percy, get in the water." "I'm okay." "No, you're not," she said. "Chiron, watch this." Percy was too tired to argue. He stepped back into the creek, the whole camp gathering around him. He instantly looked a lot better, and the cut on his chest healed up like nothing had happened. "Look, I don't know why," he said, trying to apologize. "I'm sorry." But they were not watching that. He saw that their eyes, Naruto included, were above his head. "Percy," Annabeth said, pointing upward. By the time he looked up, the sign was already fading, but he could still make out the hologram of green light, spinning and gleaming. A 3-tipped spear, a trident. "Your father," Annabeth murmured. "This is really not good." "It is determined," Chiron announced. All around him, campers started kneeling, even the Ares cabin. Though they didn't look happy about it. Of course, Naruto didn't, even if he was grinning and happy for his friend, making Percy feel better, because this was just awkward. "My father?" Percy asked, completely bewildered. "Poseidon," said Chiron. "Earthshaker, Stormbringer, father of horses. Hail, Perseus Jackson, son of the sea god." Percy looked to Naruto for help, but gasped as he saw 4 images above Naruto. Everyone looked where he was and their jaws dropped. Above Naruto were 4 symbols. The bottom one, larger than the other 3, was that of a large sliver crescent moon, the symbol of Artemis. The other 3 were a caduceus, and in one was several flowers, and the top one was a hearth. "O great Pan, Artemis, goddess of the hunt," Grover announced, "but why the others?" "The caduceus is Hermes, god of those who use the road, and the others are Persephone, goddess for springtime, queen of the underworld, and the last is Hestia, eldest of the gods and goddess of the hearth and home," Chiron said with a grim face. "Naruto Uzumaki is the son of Artemis and is related to Hermes, Persephone and Hestia." "Holy crap," came a voice from the crowd, pretty much saying what was on all their minds. Naruto said in a thinking pose, making it almost comical. "My mom being goddess of the wildness would probably explain why I have this power that lets me talk to Talia in her tree." Grover rubbed his temples trying to understand what had happened. Everyone had moved to the area in the middle of all the cabins. People had been shocked about Percy being the son of Poseidon. But that was nothing compared to the shock of Naruto's lineage. "Can someone explain this to me again? I'm with Farm Boy here, I'm out of the loop," said Gamakichi, jerking his thumb at Grover. Most of the camper got used to the giant talking toad after being told he was a summoning animal. "Naruto, you never cease to amaze me, just when I think I have you figured out you pull this out of nowhere," Chiron said with a sigh before he began, again. Hestia seemed to fall in love with a mortal from Naruto's world. She then had a son, that son met and fell in love with Persephone, who gave birth to a daughter. That daughter fell in love with Hermes and had Naruto father, who met Artemis, and they had Naruto. Grover had a dreamy look in his eyes. It took Naruto a minute to figure what his friend was thinking about. Wham! Naruto wrapped his bow onto Grover's head. "What was that for?" groaned Grover, holding his head. "Dude, that's my mom you're thinking about. I can't help it. She's just so into nature." Grover got that look in his eyes again. Naruto just got a tick mark before he wrapped Grover again. "Keep that up and you'll be growing an extra horn. Anyway, what I wanted to ask you is why you did not tell us about Talia," Chiron said. I did not think you would believe me." Naruto shrugged. "Well, I guess that might have happened. Now, do you know or have of any key RKS you could have gotten from any of your lineage?" Chiron asked, and everyone leaned in to listen. "Well, I am guessing my talking to Talia is from Mom. That is all I know so far. As far as I know here are no other half-blood children for Artemis, Persephone or Hestia, so I don't know how to compare to them or any powers I might get. As for Hermes, I would say my love off pranks that I do so much," Naruto said thoughtfully. Percy agreed with him. From what he saw, many of Hermes' kids loved pranks before he grinned. "Yeah, like your sexy jutsu." The toad started laughing, remembering the story of how Naruto got Jiraiya to teach him. "Sexy jutsu, I am not quite sure what you mean by that, but it must be amusing, seeing as your friend is laughing," Chiron said. "Yeah, well, I created this jutsu to knock out the perverts in my old village, and believe me, there are a lot," Naruto grumbled. "Especially both of my sensei. Kakashi would read his porn in public while Jiraiya was the creator of said book." "Care for a demonstration, Mr. D?" asked, shocking Naruto. "Sure, but I warn ye. Naruto while gather chakra for it." Percy, who had asked the same thing once before meeting Grover, held the edge of his nose, trying not to smile and turn around, getting a raised eyebrow from Annabeth and Grover. "Ladies, I ask that you please show mercy and don't kill me." Sexy jutsu. In a poof of smoke, Naruto had turned into a naked girl, with wisps of smoke covering her private areas. For a moment, there was silence. Percy counted down in his herd, 3, 2, 1 foot, and smirked when he heard the familiar sound of people hitting the ground. Naruto's sweat dropped when he saw pretty much every guy in the camp, even Mr. D, fall back with bloody noses. The girls of the Aphrodite, a few of them blushing and hiding small nose bleeds, were inspecting the jutsu before nodding their heads that it met their approval. The other girls were looking at the fallen boys with murderous glares that, for once as far as he knew, were not directed at him. "Well, if you would please return back to normal," Chiron said with a big blush on his face. "We need to assign you 2 new cabins." Naruto nodded and ended the jutsu, much to the guy's relief. "Right, Percy, you will be in your father's cabin, so go gather your belongings," Chiron said, and Percy just nodded while he and Luke quickly went to collect his stuff. "Now Naruto, I think you will be staying in cabin 8, but I am not so sure what to do if the hunters come, as they always stay there. I might figure you stay in Hermes' cabin, but it's so crowded I would like to avoid that." "He is always welcome at our cabin, we don't have a problem," called out Clarisse. Her brothers and sisters didn't need convincing as they thought Naruto was a great fighter and a sense of humor they find funny. "Aw, thank you, Clarisse. Naruto, Naruto," Chiron said as he looked at Naruto, who was looking at normal-looking cabin he will be staying in. He remembers that glowed silver at night, but other than that he knew nothing about it. "You know, I'll just stay here, I'll figure something out if they come to camp." "That is good and all, but you are still welcome in the Ares cabin, just so you know," Chiron stated before walking away, rubbing his head because this experience has given him a major headache. "I have a question." The orange toad spoke up. "What is it, buddy?" Naruto replied. "Why are you so young?" Quote, "Why wouldn't I be? I've only been gone over 6 months. Back home, it has been 3 years, replied Gamakichi. "What did you say?" Naruto whispered as he felt like he was hit by one of Lee's strongest kicks to the face. "Well, that would make sense. Mr. D said with interest, getting a lot of confused looks. "From what the other gods told me of their sits to that world, time between the two is always shifts. The difference of one world's time moves faster while the other seems to be barely moves. After about 3 or 4 years it goes the other way. So now time will move here faster than the other world." "Okay, anyway, I could get back to my world?" Naruto asked. "Oh, I am sure you will find out." Mr. D smirked. Scene change. "You what?" Talia yelled. "You actually beat a huge hellhound with those ninja techniques of yours." "Yes, and some arrows to the eyes and mouth, and I let slip that I can talk to you," Naruto said with his eyes closed, waiting for the girl to hit him. But it never happened. He looked back at her and saw that she was smiling sadly. "So how did they take it, Grover, Annabeth, and Luke, I mean?" Talia asked nervously. "Well, Grover was bouncing of the trees, much to their annoyance. Annabeth was very happy and that she told me to help you out, which I will do. I will get you out of this place, even if it kills me. That is a promise," Naruto said with a foxy smile that made Talia blush a bit. "And Luke?" she asked softly. He was the oddball. He just smiled sadly and said to protect you, which I promised I would," Naruto said thoughtfully until she hugged him. "Thank you, Naruto." "Hey, it's no problem, Talia," he said, surprised, but hugged her back anyway. He got a smile on his face and said, "You know, that incident made our parent claim us." Backing up, Talia smiled and asked, "So, are you going to tell me?" "Hey, Percy is the son of Poseidon," Naruto said, making Talia's eyes widen. "Me on other hand, I'm kinda different. I'm a chain gang." "A what?" "Well, I am the son of Artemis and I am also related to Hermes, Persephone and Hestia." Naruto shrugged like it was no big deal, but the look on Talia's face told him otherwise. "So you are related to 4 gods, 2 of which are virgin goddesses?" she asked, shocked. "Yeah, I'm not sure how that happened and I am not even sure how to even react to all of this. I am not even sure if I am even truly their kid or their line. I am not even sure how that is possible." Talia thought about it. Maybe because of the mixed blood of all the gods and goddess. You're not like one of them but a true mix of all of them. That does not matter though because you are your own kind of hero. Yeah, I guess. Anyway, I should get going, curfew and all," Naruto said with a sad smile. He really liked Talia for some reason. "Okay," Talia said, giving him another hug, enjoying the feeling of being in contact with another human, especially Naruto because he seemed to emit a lot of warmth. Naruto saw her smile a big and returned the hug. "Oh, and when I get out of here, you have got to show me this sexy jutsu you told me about." Naruto chuckled nervously. "Then you will be in for a blast if you like to see all the guys get blown back by nosebleeds." Talia just smiled as she saw her friend fade away, savoring the warmth until he was gone. Back outside, we see Naruto standing in front of the tree with a palm on it. Opening his eyes, he smiled to himself and turned around only to freeze. The first thing he noticed that it was night time and that there was someone there. It looked like a male man and large blue bag over his shoulder. Can I help you?" Naruto asked warily. The male man smiled before saying, "Hello Naruto, I am passing through and have some packages to deliver." "How do you know my name?" "You are well known among the gods and other immortals. You're the only one with so much blood of gods in you. The only thing missing is really being immortal. Some of the other gods are start calling you a mortal god." "Mortal god? That what you are being called, mostly god but enough human to be mortal. To us immortals it makes you unique." Naruto just stared at the man before, "You a god?" The man nodded as Naruto just sat down and led against the tree. The god looked confused before he sat down next to Naruto. "Something wrong?" Naruto said nothing at first but sighed and said, "I know in her letter mom loves me and is proud of me but, you know my mom's stories, how can she be proud of me?" I'm the very things she hates. I'm probably just a disappointment. This was Naruto's worst fear, and after see his mother is a goddess that is known for hating man, he didn't know if he could even be something to her, no matter how hard he tried. It wasn't a goal that he could achieve it through hard work, it was much more. The god placed his arm over Naruto's shoulder. Now don't be like that, she loves you more than anything else, even my son, your father. This caused Naruto to stare at the god next to him. Grandpa. Hermes' grin grew even wider at this. You should have seen the look on mine and my father's face when they told us. I was proud that he found love, but for my sister to also find it. Zeus was all for it. He loves his daughter very much and he was honored that my son named his most famous jutsu after him. Don't worry about her, you meant the world to them both. It almost broke her heart to let you go and just after your father died. Naruto had tears in his eye but paid them no mind. Thanks grandpa. Hermes chuckled. He will never get tired of hearing that. He reached into his bag and pulled out a box and gave it to him. A gift from me, I'm sure you will find use for it. Naruto opened the box, and found a pair of black sandals like the pair he had back home. They are like my shoes, gives you wings at a command. Just make a password for them and wing appeared, say it again and they recede. I thought you would like your own password than what I use. Naruto was deep in thought, he needed something that shouted him, but something that won't come up easy when he talking to someone. He then smiled and said loudly, will of fire. Orange wings sprouted from the heels of the shoes and started flapping. Naruto said the password again and the wings vanished. Hermes stood up, well I have many other deliveries to take care of. Then he drew Naruto into a hug, take care of yourself. And don't worry about your mother, right now we just have to deal with father and our uncle from causing sigh, it just so hard as gods by nature are so stubborn. No problem. Naruto said returning the hug with tears in his eyes. No problem at all. Later that night, Naruto would have a dream just like Percy would. In Percy's dream Poseidon and Zeus were fighting. Well, that was until a voice that seemed to be from underground, woke him up. Naruto's dream valley of the end. Naruto was in a forest. When he saw a small figure not far from him. She looked out of place in this area and Naruto could tell she was a goddess. She seemed sad for some reason as he followed her until they came upon a fight scene that made Naruto stop. It was the final fight with Sasuke. He saw that the goddess stopped staring in worry watching the Naruto launching himself at Sasuke for a final attack. The energy flared up blinding them both. When it cleared he saw the goddess look in horror as he was on the ground and Sasuke over him. After Sasuke left she ran over and checked him over. Naruto now had tears in his eyes. This was his mother. She was worried for him, cared for him. As she healed him Kakashi entered the area. After spotting his mother he bowed and said, my lady. His mother seemed to know who he was and said, Kakashi. I'm taking my son where he belongs. Tell you village, if he ever come back it will be his dissension. If it was up to me he would never come back. And in a blind light, which caused Kakashi and his dog to look away. His mother vanished with him. Naruto's dream ends. Naruto. Open the door, I got Percy, we have to get to the big house. Grover's voice came from his door. Grumbling. Naruto opened up the door to let Grover into the cabin. Why are we needed there? Naruto asked, rubbing his eyes. Just hurry, and put on some clothes, you are only in your boxers. Yes mother. Naruto said as he rolled his eyes before he walked back in and a few minutes later, he was in his usual attire. Okay I am ready. On the way there, Percy looked really nervous for some reason. Like he thought he was in trouble for some reason. Naruto put a hand on the boy's shoulder and when the son of Poseidon looked at him, he just smiled. That seemed to calm Percy a bit. I don't understand how you can be so calm. I mean, we are a couple of kids that should not exist. Simple. I don't think about it. Naruto smirked. That just caused Percy to sigh, he should have known. Naruto looked up and saw that the sky looked like it was ready to storm. Whistling, Naruto said, that is one big storm, I wonder if it will actually rain. No, Grover said. It never rains here unless we want it to. Percy found himself agreeing to this because for as long as they have been here, it never rained, let alone being overcast at all. What the heck is that, then? Asked Percy. Grover glanced uneasily at the sky. It'll pass around us. Bad weather always does. They left it all that, but Naruto got the feeling that their half-goat friend was not telling them everything, because to him, that was a big storm forming. At the volleyball pit, the kids from Apollo's cabin were playing a morning game against the satyrs. Dionysus's twins were walking around in the strawberry fields, making the plants grow. Everybody was going about their normal business, but they looked tense. They kept their eyes on the storm. All three walked up to the front porch of the big house. Dionysus sat at the pinnacle table in his tiger-striped Hawaiian shirt with his Diet Coke, just as he had on their first day. Chiron sat across the table in his fake wheelchair. They were playing against invisible opponents, 2 sets of cards hovering in the air. Naruto wondered how the hell they did that, but stayed quiet for now. Well, Mr. D said without looking up. Our little celebrities. Come closer boys, Mr. D said. And don't expect me to bow to you, mortal, just because old Barnacle-beard is your father. He pointed to Percy and then smirked at Naruto. He actually liked the blonde, but no way was he going to say that out loud. Even he had standards. Same to you, even if you were related to those 4. At that, a net of lightning spread across the clouds above. Mr. D didn't seem to care. Yeah. Chiron feigned interest in his pinnacle cards. Grover cowered by the railing, his hooves clopping back and forth. Percy looked a little freaked and Naruto, he looked up, wondering if he could pull something like that off. If I had my way, Dionysus said, I would cause your molecules to erupt in flames. We'd sweep up the ashes and be done with a lot of trouble. But Chiron seems to feel. This would be against my mission at this cursed camp, to keep you little brats safe from harm. Spontaneous combustion is a form of harm, Mr. D, Chiron put in. You don't say. Naruto deadpanned. Nonsense, Dionysus said. Percy wouldn't feel a thing. Nevertheless, I've agreed to restrain myself. I'm thinking of turning you into a dolphin instead, sending you back to your father. Mr. D, Chiron warned, while Naruto was wondering why everyone seemed to be on Percy's case. Oh, alright, Dionysus relented. There's one more option, but it's deadly foolishness. Dionysus rose, and the Invisible players' cards dropped to the table. I'm off to Olympus for the emergency meeting. If they are still here when I get back, I'll turn Percy into an Atlantic bottlenose and, well, I am not sure what to turn Naruto into. Do you understand? And Perseus Jackson, if you're at all smart, you'll see that's a much more sensible choice than what Chiron feels you must do. Dionysus picked up a playing card, twisted it. And it became a plastic rectangle. A credit card. No. A security pass. He snapped his fingers. The air seemed to fold and bend around him. He became a hologram, then a wind, then he was gone. Leaving only the smell of fresh pressed grapes lingering behind. Show off. I would not talk if I were you, Naruto. Percy said. Chiron smiled and said, I would like you boys to sit down please. They compiled. Chiron laid his cards on the table, a winning hand he hadn't gotten to use. Sad, Tsunade would probably kill for that. Tell me boys, what do you make of the Hellhound? It scared me, Percy replied. If Naruto hadn't given it a few holes in its head, I would not be here right now. It was odd for me. I didn't listen much to my old teacher Kakashi, but if I were to look underneath the underneath. I think someone summoned it here somehow. Though, I would have to say that it would be a cool summoning contract. Naruto said thoughtfully, making Percy sweat drop. Trust me, you two will have fought far worse. When you are done. Especially you, Naruto, Chiron commented. Done? With what? Asked Percy. Yeah, and why me? Simple, your blood is very powerful and it repels the weaker monsters. But only the strongest of the monsters will come after you. Chiron explained. Now Percy, what I meant was your joint quest. This kind of quest hasn't been done before, so do you accept it? Depends on what we have to do. Naruto said with his arms crossed while Percy nodded to his comment. Chiron grimaced. Well, that's the hard part, the details. Thunder rumbled across the valley. The storm clouds had now reached the edge of the beach. The boys looked over and thought it odd that the sea looked to be boiling over. Poseidon and Zeus, Percy said. They're fighting over something valuable. Something that was stolen, aren't they? Chiron and Grover exchanged looks. Chiron sat forward in his wheelchair. How did you know that? Percy looked embarrassed at that for some reason. The weather since Christmas has been weird, like the sea and the sky are fighting. Then I talked to Annabeth, and she'd overheard something about a theft. And, I've also been having these dreams. I knew it, Grover said. Hush, satyr, Chiron ordered. But it is their quest. Grover's eyes were bright with excitement. It must be. Only the oracle can determine. Chiron stroked his bristly beard. Nevertheless, Percy, you correct. Your fathers and Zeus are having their worst quarrel in centuries. They are fighting over something valuable that was stolen. To be precise, a lightning bolt. A what? Percy chuckled nervously. It always has to be lightning. Naruto slapped his face. Huh? Percy asked. Percy, I was not joking, I got run through with a lightning blade twice. Naruto said stiffly and he lifted his shirt to reveal the Chidori scar, making Percy and Grover's eyes widen and causing Chiron to wince. The horseman quickly recovered after seeing this and had only strengthened what he was about to say. Do not take this lightly, Chiron warned. I'm not talking about some tinfoil-covered zigzag you'd see in a second-grade play. I'm talking about a 2-foot-long cylinder of high-grade celestial bronze, capped on both ends with god-level explosives. Thankfully, it has not been used as a sword. Oh man, I bet Shinobi back home would love to have that, Naruto chuckled. But was silenced by Chiron's glare. Zeus's master bolt, Chiron said, getting worked up now. The symbol of his power, from which all other lightning bolts are patterned. The first weapon made by the Cyclops for the war against the Titans, the bolt that sheared the top off Mount Etna and hurled Kronos from his throne, the master bolt, which packs enough power to make more tall hydrogen bombs look like firecrackers. And it's missing? Asked Percy. Stolen, Chiron said. By who? Asked Naruto. By whom? Chiron corrected. Once a teacher always a teacher. By you too. Percy's jaw dropped. Naruto got a pissed off look. Of all the arg, at least, Chiron held up a hand, that's what Zeus thinks. During the winter solstice, at last council of the gods, Zeus and Poseidon had an argument. The usual nonsense. Mother Rhea always liked you best, air disasters are more spectacular than sea disasters, etc. Afterward, Zeus realized his master bolt was missing, taken from the throne room under his very nose. He immediately blamed Poseidon. Now, a god cannot usurp another god's symbol of power directly, that is forbidden by the most ancient of divine laws. But Zeus believes your fathers convinced a human hero to take it. But we didn't. Patience and listen, children, Chiron said. Zeus has good reason to be suspicious. The forges of the Cyclops are under the ocean, which gives Poseidon some influence over the makers of his brother's lightning. Zeus believes Poseidon has taken the master bolt, and is now secretly having the Cyclops build an arsenal of illegal copies, which might be used to topple Zeus from his throne. The only thing Zeus wasn't sure about was which hero Poseidon used to steal the bolt. Now Poseidon has openly claimed you as his son. You were in New York over the winter holidays. You could easily have snuck into Olympus. Zeus believes he has found his thief. Okay, so why me then? Naruto asked. The gods know of you, being related to Hermes make you seem like a good theft, plus being from the world of the ninja, stealth is no problem for you. Okay, but I have never been to Olympus. Naruto deadpanned. Yeah, me either. Zeus is crazy. Percy was freaking out. Chiron and Grover glanced nervously at the sky. The clouds didn't seem to be parting around them, as Grover had promised. They were rolling straight over our valley, sealing them in like a coffin lid. Percy, Grover said. We don't use the C word to describe the Lord of the Sky. Perhaps paranoid, Chiron suggested, while Naruto grumbled something about power-hungry gods. Then again, Poseidon has tried to unseat Zeus before, I believe that was question 38 on your final exam. He looked at Percy as if he actually expected him to remember question 38. Naruto just rolled his eyes, he made it a point to forget all about that test. Something about a golden net. Percy guessed. Poseidon and Hera and a few other gods, they, trapped Zeus and wouldn't let him out until he promised to be a better ruler, right? Correct, Creon said. And Zeus has never trusted Poseidon. Of course, Poseidon denies stealing the master bolt. He took great offense at the accusation. The two have been arguing back and forth for months, threatening war. And now, you two have come along, the proverbial last straw. But we are just kids. I don't even think Naruto could pull that off. Percy freaked. Percy, Grover cut in, if you were Zeus, and you already thought your brothers was plotting to overthrow you, then your brother utterly admitted that he had broken the sacred oath he took after World War II, that he have fathered a couple of new mortal heroes who might be used as a weapon against you. Wouldn't that put a twist in your toga? But I didn't do anything. Poseidon, my dad, he didn't really have this master bolt stolen, did he? Yeah, why would I take that stupid thing? Naruto growled. Chiron sighed. Most inking observers would agree that thievery is not Poseidon's style. But the sea god is too proud to try convincing Zeus of that. Zeus has demanded that he return the bolt by the summer solstice. That's June 21st, 10 days from now. Poseidon wants an apology for being called a thief by the same date. I hope that diplomacy might prevail, that Hera or Demeter or Hestia would make the brothers see sense. But your arrival has inflamed Zeus's temper. Now neither god will back down. Unless someone intervenes, unless the master bolt is found and returned to Zeus before the solstice, there will be war. And do you know what a full-fledged war would look like, Percy? Bad. Percy guessed. Naruto snorted. I have read about the shinobi wars contrary to everyone's belief back home, and they were bad. I would have to believe this would be a lot worse. Imagine the world in chaos. Nature at war with itself. Olympians forced to choose sides between Zeus, Hades and Poseidon. Destruction. Carnage. Millions dead. Western civilization turned into a battleground so big it will make the Trojan War look like a water balloon fight. Yikes, Naruto cringed. Bad, Percy repeated. And you too, Percy Jackson. Naruto Uzumaki would be the first to feel Zeus's wrath. Percy had a dumbstruck look on his face and Naruto actually looked nervous. So we have to find the stupid bolt, Percy said. And return it to Zeus. Yeah, I would rather do that. I am not sure I am strong enough to beat some god. Naruto chuckled nervously. What better peace offering, Chiron said, than to have the son of Poseidon and the son of his favorite daughter return Zeus's property. If Poseidon doesn't have it, where is the thing? Percy asked. I believe I know. Chiron's expression was grim. Part of a prophecy I had years ago. Well, some of the lines make sense to me now. But before I can say more, you must officially take up the quest. You must seek the counsel of the oracle. Why can't you tell me where the bolt is beforehand? Percy asked. Because if I did, you would be too afraid to accept the challenge. Percy swallowed. Good reason. You agree then. Percy looked to Grover, who nodded, and then to Naruto, who looked ready for anything. They nodded to each other and at the same time, they said, we accept. Besides, it is better than being turned into a dolphin. Percy stated, which made Naruto chuckle. Then it's time you two consulted the oracle, Chiron said. Go upstairs to the attic. When you come back down, assuming you're still sane, we will talk more. Naruto's eye twitched. That was never a good sign. What could this oracle be like? It can't be that bad, can it? He would soon find out as he and Percy went up 4 floors that ended under a green trapdoor. Percy pulled the cord and it swung open to reveal a ladder. The warm air from above smelled like mildew and rotten wood and something else, something that Percy remembered from biology class and Naruto from the one man he really didn't like. Snakes. Of course it really smelled bad, so they covered their faces as they went up. The attic was filled with Greek hero junk, armor stands covered in cobwebs, once bright shields pitted with rust. Old leather steamer trunks plastered with stickers saying ITHAKA, Circe's Isle, and Land of the Amazons. One long table was stacked with glass jars filled with pickled things, severed hairy claws, huge yellow eyes, various other parts of monsters. A dusty mounted trophy on the wall looked like a giant snake's head, but with horns and a full set of shark's teeth. The plaque read, Hydra Head No. 1. Woodstock, NY, 1969. By the window, sitting on a wooden tripod stool, was the most gruesome memento of all, a mummy. Not the wrapped in cloth kind, but a human female body shriveled to a husk. She wore a tie-dyed sundress, lots of beaded necklaces, and a headband over long black hair. The skin of her face was thin and leathery over her skull, and her eyes were glassy white slits. As if the real eyes had been replaced by marbles, she'd been dead a long, long time. Percy got a freaked-out look on his face while Naruto had an uncomfortable look. Then, a green mist poured from the mummy's mouth, coiling over the floor in thick tendrils, hissing like 20,000 snakes. Percy fell over and tried to get out, but the trapdoor was shut tight. Naruto was stone still as he glared at the mist, not liking this. Then they heard a voice in their heads. I am the spirit of Delphi, speaker of the prophecies of Phoebus Apollo, slayer of the mighty Python. Approach, seekers, and ask. Naruto could tell this was freaking out his friend, so he put a hand on his shoulder and it seemed to work some. Looking back at it, he had to admit it was a bit creepy. That green saint was its form of speaking to them and it did not feel evil like some things they had encountered so far, so he would give it a chance and it seemed Percy would too. What is our destiny? They asked at the same time. The mist swirled more thickly, collecting right in front of them and around the table with the pickled monster part jars. Suddenly there were 4 men sitting around the table, playing cards. Their faces became clearer. It was Smelly Gabe and his buddies, along with Tsunade. Naruto smirked at the image of Gabe. He had beaten the fool at his own game. He also noticed that Percy looked pissed for a second before calming down, realizing the man was not actually here. Gabe turned toward them and spoke in the rasping voice of the oracle. You shall go west, and face the god who has turned. Tsunade folded and said, the prince of the 2 worlds shall meet his future and learn of the truth. His buddy on the right looked up and said in the same voice, you shall find what was stolen, and see it safely returned. The guy on the left threw in 2 poker chips, then said, you shall be betrayed by one who calls you a friend. Finally, Eddie, the building super, delivered the worst line of all, and you shall fail to save what matters most, in the end. The figures began to dissolve and as the mist retreated, coiling into a huge green serpent and slithering back into the mouth of the mummy, Percy cried, wait. What do you mean? What friend? What will I fail to save? The tail of the mist snake disappeared into the mummy's mouth. She reclined back against the wall. Her mouth closed tight, as if it hadn't been open in 100 years. The attic was silent again, abandoned, nothing but a room full of mementos. Well, wasn't that helpful? Naruto's voice startled Percy and the boy. Could cut the blonde's sarcasm with a knife. Come on, Percy said shakily, let's get out of here, this place is creeping me out. Scene change. Well, Chiron asked. She said we would retrieve what was stolen. Percy sighed. Grover sat forward, chewing excitedly on the remains of a Diet Coke can. That's great. What did the oracle say exactly? Chiron pressed. This is important. He said we would go west and face a god who had turned. We would retrieve what was stolen and see it safely returned. I knew it, Grover said. Chiron didn't look satisfied. Anything else? Naruto. That Percy didn't want to speak about it and he kept quiet as well. That last line was disturbing. No, Percy said. That's about it. Well, there was this bit about the prince of the two worlds. Meeting his future and learning the truth, but I am not sure what that means. I see, Chiron said as he studied their faces. Just know this, the oracle's words often have double meanings. Don't dwell on them too much. The truth is not always clear until events come to pass. Okay, Percy said, anxious to change topics. So where do we go? Who's this god in the west? Think, Percy, Chiron said. If Zeus and Poseidon weaken each other in a war, who stands to gain? Somebody else who wants to take over. The boy guessed. Yes, quite. Someone who harbors a grudge, who has been unhappy his lot since the world was divided eons ago, whose kingdom would grow powerful with the deaths of millions. Someone who hates his brothers for forcing him into an oath to have no more children, an oath that all three of them have now broken. Hades, the boys said at the same time. Chiron nodded. The Lord of the Dead is the only possibility. A scrap of aluminum dribbled out of Grover's mouth. Whoa, wait. What? A fury came after Percy and Naruto, Chiron reminded him. She watched the young men until she was sure of their identity, then tried to kill them. Furies obey only one lord, Hades. Yes, but Hades hates all heroes, Grover protested. Especially if he has found out Percy is a son of Poseidon, and that Naruto is the son of someone who said she never have kids. Plus, he related to his wife and it wasn't his child. A hellhound got into the forest, Chiron continued. Those can only be summoned from the fields of punishment, and it had to be summoned by someone within the camp. Hades must have a spy here. He must suspect Poseidon will try to use Percy to clear his name. Hades would very much like to kill this young half-blood before he can take on the quest. Hey, Naruto growled. I know that Hades is an ass, but don't jump to conclusions. Maybe he is losing control of his monster. He felt like they were ganging up on him, and he was his great-grandma's husband after all. Chiron stared at Naruto for a moment and smiled. You could be right, but he is still a possibility. Naruto didn't like that but he just accepted it anyway. Great, two major gods what to kill me. Percy mumbled. Naruto just punched Percy's shoulder and said, don't worry, even if I am not ready yet, I won't let any of my precious people die on me. Hey, thanks, Percy replied with a smile. But a quest too. Grover swallowed. I mean, couldn't the Master Bolt be in some place like Maine? Maine's very nice this time of year. Hades sent a minion to steal the Master Bolt, Chiron insisted. He hid it in the underworld, knowing full well that Zeus would blame Poseidon. I don't pretend to understand the Lord of the Dead's motives perfectly, or why he chose this time to start a war, but one thing is certain. You two must go to the underworld, find the Master Bolt, and reveal the truth. Grover started trembling. He'd started eating pinnacle cards like potato chips. The poor guy needed to complete a quest with Percy or Naruto so he could get his searcher's license, whatever that was. Hey, if it is him, Naruto started, can't we complain to our uncles and then they could take care of it? Suspecting and knowing are not the same, Chiron said. Besides, even if the other gods suspect Hades, and I imagine Poseidon does, they couldn't retrieve the bolt themselves. Gods cannot cross each other's territories except by invitation. That is another ancient rule. Heroes, on the other hand, have certain privileges. They can go anywhere, challenge anyone, as long as they're bold enough and strong enough to do it. No god can be held responsible for a hero's actions. Why do you think the gods always operate through humans? I just thought they were too lazy, Naruto shrugged. You're saying we're being used. Percy stated, irritable about this information. I'm saying it's no accident that your father has claimed you now. It's a very risky gamble, but they're in desperate situations. They need you. Quote, great, the kids got to save our parents' asses. Naruto sighed, and Grover nodded to that and chuckled a bit at that. You've known I was Poseidon's son all along, haven't you? Asked Percy. And for Naruto as well, being the son of Artemis and all. Percy accused. I had my suspicions. Well, not Naruto's as much. As I said, I've spoken to the Oracle, too. Chiron said calmly. So let me get this straight, Percy said. We're supposed to go to the underworld and confront the Lord of the Dead. Check, Chiron stated. Find the most powerful weapon in the universe. Check, Naruto said with a gleam in his eye. And get it back to Olympus before the summer solstice, in 10 days. That's about right, Chiron said. Impossible odds, certain chance of death, what the hell are we waiting for? Shouted Naruto. Did I mention that Maine is very nice this time of year? Grover asked weakly as he gulped down an ace of hearts. You don't have to go, Percy told him. I can't ask that of you. He took a deep breath, and then stood, brushing the shredded cards and aluminum bits off his t-shirt. You guys saved my life. If you're serious about wanting me along, I won't let you down. That made both of the boys smile, Percy because he wanted another friend with them and Naruto because he was proud of the satyr. All the way, G-man. Percy said and then turned to Chiron. So where do we go? The Oracle just said to go west. The entrance to the underworld is always in the west. It moves from age to age, just like Olympus. Right now, of course, it's in America. Where? Naruto asked. Chiron looked surprised. I thought that would be obvious enough. The entrance to the underworld is in Los Angeles. L.A. Sweet. Naruto cheered. Oh, Percy said. Naturally. So we just get on a plane. No. Grover shrieked. Percy, what are you thinking? Have you ever been on a plane in your life? Percy shook his head in the negative. Percy, think, Chiron said. You are the son of the sea god. Your father's bitterest rival is Zeus, lord of the sky. Your mother knew better than to trust you in an airplane. You would be in Zeus's domain. You would never come down again alive. Okay, so what about me? Naruto asked. To be honest, I am not sure, Chiron said thoughtfully, but to be safe, I would say that you stay on the ground as well. Overhead, lightning crackled. Thunder boomed. Naruto looked up and said, I forgot about that. Okay, Percy said, determined not to look at the storm. So, we'll travel overland. That's right, Chiron said. 2 companions may accompany you. Grover is one. The other has already volunteered, if you will accept her help. Gee, Percy said, feigning surprise while smirking to Naruto, who did the same. Who else would be stupid enough to volunteer for a quest like this? The blonde looked behind Chiron since his fellow blonde behind the man as she took off the Yankees hat and she shimmered into existence for all to see. I've been waiting a long time for a quest, seaweed brain, she said. Athena is no fan of Poseidon, but if you're going to save the world, I'm the best person to keep you from messing up. Glad you care, Naruto smirked. If you do say so yourself, Percy said with a smirk. I suppose you have a plan, wise girl. Her cheeks colored. Do you want my help or not? The 4 of us will work just fine. Percy said in return, happy to be traveling with people he knows and trusts. Excellent, Chiron said. This afternoon, we can take you as far as the bus terminal in Manhattan. After that, you are on your own. Lightning flashed. Rain poured down on the meadows that were never supposed to have violent weather. No time to waste, Chiron said. I think you should all get packing. Already done. Naruto commented as seals glowed all over his body and in place of his clothes was his Anbu gear. I got everything I need right here. You have got to teach me that. Annabeth said with wide eyes. Maybe. Naruto said thoughtfully. He then had a strange thought. But if this quest is anything like the Wave mission, we are going to have to expect the unexpected. Naruto, you are the king of the unexpected. Percy replied. Oh well, I meet you guys here when you get back. I gotta go tell Talia that we are going get her dad's doomsday toy back for him. With that, Naruto body flickered to the tree. Annabeth turned back to Percy and asked, is he always? Yes. Both Percy and Grover said amused by the disappearing blonde. That's it for today, I will stop here. I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you please consider subscribe and make sure to hit that like button, share with your friends and don't forget to check out author of this story. Details in description.